Did the raid work? I don't know. The raid worked. Raid fail. Whoops. Dang, that sucks. Because a lot of those people were leftovers from raids who were probably sleeping or something. We lost them. It's because I hit start stream and then I hit end stream. I didn't wait till the stream started. Which means now my chat's not going to be showing for no reason. Start the stream off right with the song. No, I'm trying to do a serious stream here. Oh, I got to get this off my screen. Let's get that out of here. I don't need this anymore. I can delete this. I've been broke my whole life. Now money right. See, it's not going to show the chat now. I've been broke my whole life. Now oh my God. Oh my God. Hold on, we're going to get Destiny people in here. If they find out I gargle balls, he's going to be hitting me up. All right, fine, but I got to go do something real quick. You can't force me to listen. Balls. Jizz goggles 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 balls. Caramba. Not gargle balls. It's never happened. Ain't not an ounce of gay in my body. Just spark a ball and let it happen. All right. Let's find this video. I'm going to do this since it's not going to show my chat on the screen, so I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to go. I know, a bunch of crazy people. Can I get a better Griff song, please? I don't care. Anything that's just not about. I don't like that. I don't like, you know. I like money. And it's catchy. But how come everybody else gets cool Griff songs? I get some gay ass JS Gargles Balls song. That's not cool. No respect. Just a bunch of dang haters. All right. Let's do this. We'll go here. It's provocative. Make a song that says JS doesn't gargle balls. Yeah, that would be even worse. Update. Oh, I'm going to update later. I have to update everything. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to go. And also, thank you for the super chats. Even though it came at a cost, a pricely cost, to my dignity, to my soul. All right, we're going to react to an old debate with Destiny and Elijah Schaffer. This happened like, I think, a week after the Ukraine one. And I don't remember if I watched this one. But it's going to be, it's an Uncensored America debate for sure.
And work that's gone into this, so it's a dream come true to have all of you out here.
This is
my name is James Cowell.
This is for sure an Uncensored America debate right here. Now I want display capture. Ignore my hot nuts. Yeah, we'll do it like that. Oh my God. You don't get to just demand stuff. All right?
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles balls.
Self-promo, lots of balls. Oh, what happened? Oh, my bad. Now I got to play it again. All right, we're going to have to make a new deal. I'm going to have to do this like how Rob does it, where we just play them all at the end. Because once I start playing this, why is this in self-promo? And also, I've seen this already. And also, I don't smoke Marlboro Reds. I smoke Lucky Strikes. I've already seen that before. Okay, I'll play the song again. But from now on, we got to play them at the end or something.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles balls.
I don't gargle balls.
Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls. Jay's got those balls.
God, I'm gonna have to just put it on the freaking soundboard. Okay. No. We're gonna watch the Destiny debate. When I review Destiny debates, we get new liberals in here. How am I gonna crush the libs if they think I gargle balls? Okay. Jeez. All right, we're gonna play this. If you keep doing it, they gotta build up at the end. All right. This is Destiny versus Elijah Schaffer, Unreal America. I forget Uncensored America. Sorry, I forget what college this is at. This was 3 years ago. The debate topic is something about trans inclusion debate. Trans inclusion. I thought it was saying JS got his balls. That would be better. I do got my balls. Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, it says JS got his balls. That's what it said. I got them 3 weeks ago in the mail. The ball gargling is what will bring in the lefties. That's true, but not in the right way. Not in the way that we want. Okay? All right.
President of Uncensored America. Of that, I want to hand it off to a representative from the student union.
Good evening, everyone. A message from the broader institution. Tonight's event has been organized by University of Tennessee.
And by that, I'm surprised this guy's probably pissed this is even happening. Destiny, you better win this for us, please. We can't have the University of Tennessee looking like transphobes.
Registered student organization for the engagement of the campus community. As a public university, our campus is a marketplace of ideas. The university embraces debate and will protect the freedom of our campus community.
Is this a teacher? How much do you have to pay to have this guy teach you? You need a refund.
To vigorously discuss ideas. We ask that you respect the speakers, the students who organized the event, and your fellow students in attendance by allowing the speakers to be heard. University policy and state law prohibit substantial obstruction or interference with this event. Those who attempt to interrupt the speakers or otherwise prevent them from speaking will be asked to leave and may be subject to disciplinary action or arrest.
He does sound like he
Thank
gargles
you for your
balls. Can we get this guy gargles balls song?
cooperation.
Hey, Mikey Balls.
Thank you so much. Really
Speaking of gargling, no, stop. Mikey Balls, what's up? Shout out Insane Wheels. Thank you for the raid. He has no idea what was happening before he came in here. I just said, speaking of balls. Anyway, shout out.
appreciate that. We love when any university supports free speech. Like David said, I am the founder of Uncensored America. My name is Sean Semenko.
What is up with this guy's hair? Looks like he was just in a burning building.
And we are going to be
Should I go? How about we do this? Let's do it this way instead. Okay, let me pull the camera back. I can't I want to go to this one. But the problem is the chat is from the last stream because I rated to myself, so the chat is frozen. So we're gonna go instead, we're gonna go here. And then I gotta fix my camera. That's better. And I like to be in the bottom right. But we still want the dono bar. Where's the dono bar? That'll be good. Fixing stuff on the fly. Okay, let's do it this way.
Giving you guys a fantastic debate today with two speakers of slightly different opinions, maybe some agreement in there, maybe some vast.
Refresh what? Refresh YouTube or refresh OBS? What happened was OBS was streaming to another stream of mine, and then I rated that stream to this stream, but I had to start this stream before I ended that one, and I only could have one OBS open. I don't know how to refresh OBS. I don't think that's going to work. Not playing it again. Cough, cough for the grift. Oh my God. All right. I'm sorry for Mikey Ball's audience, but they like to torture me by making me play a song that I don't like. And it's not just like it's annoying and I don't like it. It's insulting. I do not gargle balls. Oh, it's not playing. Something's broken. It's broken.
Jizz goggles balls.
Shit.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles balls.
I just wanted to review a debate. Stop singing along with it. It's catchy. We got a Mikey Balls raid. And we're listening to JS Gargle's Balls. Can we get Marilyn Gargle's Balls? I like that song better. I just wanted to review a debate. They keep sending me money to play that gay song. Okay, no more. Wait till the. Oh my God, Tiny. Oh my God. Can we get to the debate? What happens when Destiny fans come in here to see my takes on his debate, and all they hear is that I gargle balls? This is ridiculous. Oh my God. Okay, one more, but then no more till the end of the debate. Plus, I only have so much time before I have to go to bed. This is a 2-hour debate. Not even going to get through it all. Holy crap.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles balls.
Yeah, I gotta go to bed. Trump. About 25 seconds left. Oh, stop! Stop! What are you doing? Oh my God. Shazzy, what are you doing to me? Oh my God. I want to watch the debate. It's 10:13. I only have 2 hours. It's a 2-hour debate. With reaction time, that's like 3 hours. Could be more. Holy crap. Fine. One more time. And then they get played at the end. This is ridiculous.
Jizz goggles balls.
At least give me different versions
Jizz
of
goggles
it.
balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
Hey, I like that. She said JS kind of bald. That's what she hears. That's all right. I am getting kind of bald. That's from traction alopecia from the dreadlocks.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles
I don't know, Cameron. JS got no balls. The title of that song is JS is Awesome. In case you were wondering. You can download it on Spotify or your iTunes, your favorite music platform. That really is the title of the song, JS is Awesome. But I knew when he sent it to me, it was going to be something gay. I just knew it. Carney Vanguard. What's up? Tootie Bug. No. We're not listening. Come on. Guys, I told you I made the thumbnail. I put Destiny in the title. Because when you review Destiny debates and you put his name in the title, you get Destiny fans coming in. And then sometimes they turn into long-term haters or viewers. That's how we found Goon. That's how we found Stripper Cat. How are we going to find new crazy liberals to talk to if you don't let me get to the debate? Oh, my God. JS got no balls? That's not what they're saying, Shazzy, but that's better. I prefer that.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles balls.
Stop. Don't do that. Keep my hands still.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles
It's not funny.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
Okay, this is the last one for real. Send money. Don't be pissed if I don't play it. I gotta get to the debate. I'm telling you now. It's like subliminal messaging. No, it's pretty blatant messaging. I just told you, Spark. I just said if you send money again, I'm not gonna play it. Don't be mad at me. You want something in common with Destiny and his fans? Play the song again. I'll play it at the end. I want to watch the debate. Holy crap.
Differences.
We're watching the debate. You guys need to calm down. All right? Just need to tone it down a notch. I like the money. But dang. No show for you. We must jam. Oh my God.
Jizz goggles balls.
I'm never going to get the
Jizz
stream.
goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
I'm not sending Are We Not Men any royalties for this.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles balls.
What happened to the donut bar? No, I played it before Marilyn said that. I did not take it. The red hurts your eyes? That's probably because you're old. Yeah, if that red hurts your eyes, that's probably just because you're old. Are you crazy? Well, you should get your eyes checked, buddy. No, it does look weird. I just put drone on there because I kind of want to get a drone before DebateCon to fly it around and get some cool aerial shots for the vlog video. Because I always make little vlog videos of my trip. Oh my God, Chazzy. I can't say no to British money because it's worth more than American money. Oh my God. It's getting annoying. Are you guys not? Are you guys? Is this entertaining to you? Has that Dick Dale flair? What does that mean? Dick Dale sounds like a NASCAR driver. Speaking of NASCAR drivers, that guy died and he was only, I think he was like 48. That's kind of sad. Oh my God. Guys, it's almost 10:30. I'm never going to get to the debate. Holy moly ravioli. No, it's annoying. I think it's annoying too. But I like money.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
We have to do this at the end of the show.
Jizz goggles balls.
I'm not going to let you guys do
Jizz
this.
goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
Seat chair. I make more money than you.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz
Oh my God, Marilyn. Marilyn, you got something wrong with you. You're not entertained. I'm not dancing anymore. No more dancing. Stop. I gotta stop doing that shit. Yes, you do.
Jay's got a ball. Jay's got a ball. Jay's got a ball. Jay's got a ball. Jay's got a ball.
No.
Jay's got a ball.
No.
Jay's got a
Tiny, no. Oh my God. I gotta stop it at some point so I can watch this. I keep saying it. I'm not standing by my gun. I'm not sticking to my guns. I gotta stick to my guns. No more. I'll play it at the end of the show. We gotta watch this debate. For real. No more. I'm not doing it. Nope. Click the debate. We're watching the debate. Tiny. I have a no refund policy, but I'll play it at the end.
About to find out. Free speech is really what's at the heart of our organization. It is the beating heart of what we're doing. We're trying to kick off a free speech rebellion on
I like money, but you don't get to run my show. I gotta watch the debate. Send the money. I'll play it at the end.
campus with a simple mission is just to empower young Americans here to fight for free speech in order to make American culture.
No debate until bar is full. I don't have time for that. I have to get sleep. I have to work tonight. I need to go to. Oh my God, she feels betrayed. If I play this, somebody else is gonna tell me to play it again before the end, and then I'm not gonna be able to stop it because I'm gonna have to play that one.
Jay's goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls.
Guys, ignore my comment because
Jay's
it's true.
goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls.
No, I ignored your comment because you don't know how to spell.
Jay's goggles balls.
It looked like it said my prostate is failing or something like that. Why is your prostate failing? Got something wrong with your prostate? Elder Lion's prostate is failing, guys. Pray for him. My prostate is failing. Damn, Elder Lion, what's that like? Did you get a guy to put his finger up there yet? Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll fix it. We got to play this again.
Jay's goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls. Jay's goggles balls.
Can I at least get some different versions of this?
Jay's goggles balls. 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 Jay's goggles balls.
balls now. Marilyn, should I break him in with one of my vids? What does that mean? Huh? No balls. Hey. Thank you. Are you crazy? Everybody gay. Everybody gay. JS is kind of bald. I am kind of bald. Look. It's traction alopecia, okay? It's like what Will Smith's wife had, Jada Pinkett. It's going to happen to Easy, too, if he has braids in all the time. I'm trying to tell him. You have dreadlocks or braids for a long period of time, you get traction alopecia, and then your hair is thin in places. That's what it is. Only a little bit bald. She's promoting her OF. That's what it sounded like. I'm going to break him in with one of my videos. I was like, what? Hold up. For free? That's not appropriate. She might be a very nice woman. I'm assuming that it's a woman. Could be Elderline on an alt account. He's losing it since his prostate started failing him. I posted a clip in your Discord. I do the little ones. Busyness. Play the song. I'm not playing it for $2 when people are paying $20 to hear it. Let's go to the debate. Can we do that?
More free, more fun, more enjoyable to live in. And we've been fighting for free speech this whole time.
lets his hair
And
out
a lot
and
of people say
shakes
that
it.
they're fighting for free speech, but what does that really mean? What does it mean when you're actually fighting for free speech? Because we already have a First Amendment, so why do we need to be fighting for it? Simple fact is, we just don't have free speech in the social, cultural, and practical sense of the matter.
I'll watch it
we
later.
do have the First Amendment, but it's only as good as if you can't be canceled at work, you can't be fired for edgy jokes online, or having mean tweets. The whole idea of what we're doing is to push the boundaries of free speech so that we can have more acceptable, more open, honest conversations with people of all kinds of different opinions. I want to hand over to my pal right here because he has been helping us work on this as well a lot.
All right, hey guys, I'm Keaton Powell, and I am the VP of the College Libertarians Club here at UT.
The panel verse. Dun, dun, dun.
And I'll be the president next
subscribe.
year. And we just want
I'm not from the panel verse. I'm from the Discordia. We do Discord panels, which are much more cheap, much less production value, much more chaos.
wanted to basically help as much as we could with Uncensored USA putting on this event, and we really support them and hope it's
Thank you.
constructive debate. I wanted to plug while I'm up here. We have a
Okay, I don't care about
criminal
this.
justice reform and
Nope. Are you crazy? You're not there yet.
and
We actually
Sorry, Sean. I got to skip
speakers
this.
we want to do.
I would love to listen. Let all your stuff play, but you know I love
Offensive, and
Uncensored
you are
America.
here. He famously filmed Evil Internet.
This is
It's gonna be
pre-Elijah
pretty
crash
free
out.
flowing, kind of like on online debates where people just sort of discuss ideas rather than doing a Lincoln Douglas style debate. So we're going to start with some opening statements.
You got $14 more to go. Are you crazy?
We're going to have a little conversation.
We've gotten to that point.
Oh wait.
That wants to ask questions, they can ask them. So Destiny, you can kick things off with opening statements.
All right. The Coomer Gremlin.
Yeah, I mean,
Look, his shirt look as dirty as my shirt, but I just got home from work in the gym. He's at a college doing a speaking event.
I got the opening statement on this one. So I think that we have to acknowledge that trans people exist. I think we've gotten to that point. So the next question is, what is the best way to incorporate them into our world in a way that minimizes harm to
Oh my
other
God.
members of our world?
Hold on.
Might be women in women's sports.
After
and
the
in a way that
openings.
minimizes harm to trans people in and of themselves as trans people. I imagine in this conversation we'll talk about a variety of things relating to medical transitioning, which
Had to
I
be
think is
anyway.
important and appropriate, even at
random
early
dude
ages
walking
with the
around.
proper guidance. We'll probably talk about things like the incorporation of trans people into sports, which I think is a good idea up through high school.
Look, they got a camera in a bucket. I love Uncensored America, but that's ghetto.
School, maybe not at the NCAA level. And then I'm sure we'll talk about the incorporation of trans people into social settings, like the dreaded bathroom question and however else that might come up. But yeah,
Bathrooms, locker rooms, saunas, sports. How about teachers at my children's school? I don't want teachers at kids' schools being transgender. That's confusing to kids. When Mr. Bo comes in as Mrs. Ho a week later, or his female teacher has a damn beard and 32-inch biceps like this. Grr! Imagine, never mind.
yeah, I mean, obviously,
Don't imagine if I became a woman.
I advocate for incorporating trans people as much as we can, as long as we're all respecting each other. I think we can do it pretty easily. And yeah, I think people overcomplicate the topic a lot because obviously people's feelings get really heated. But I think it's a pretty simple process to figure out the appropriate way to make everybody happy.
All right, Elijah.
All right, my name is Elijah Schaffer, if you don't know me, and my official position on this is the trans incorporation or inclusion is not really a debate because they exist. As long as humans exist in this world, we have to find some way to work with them or to deal with them. And so we have a problem because trans people do not know how to deal with themselves in many ways.
I know. I'm going to play it up.
There's a lot of arguments and there's a lot of
when I go to the
disagreements with
restroom.
even in the LGBTQ community on how to include trans people. Arguments range from moral arguments like religious, they range from self-harm or mental health, including the high suicide rates, high attempt at suicide among trans people, how to protect them from killing themselves, and also how to integrate them into society that largely is religious.
And how to keep them from shooting up schools. I just saw another one. Well, it's from a year ago on EWU. I was watching a documentary on EWU last night about another trans shooter kid that I think that one flew under the radar. I don't remember hearing about it, but they interrogated this girl. And it pissed me off because the interrogators are calling her by the name him, which is crazy because it used to always be white males. White males are the school shooters. White males do all the school shootings. And it used to be generally boys with autogynephilia who want to become girls or just dress up like girls, drag queens and transsexual or drag queens. And they want to go into the girls' bathroom and stuff because they're perverts. But now there's a phenomenon of young girls who want to become boys, and then it's the only like transgender thing that they do. They shoot up schools. It's crazy. You don't see many boys to girls. I'm trying to think. Boys to girls doing that. It's always girls to boys. I don't know if they think like this is the most masculine thing I can do. This is how I prove I'm actually a white male. I know, it's all a mess, Shazzy.
And does reject their existence. I think I agree with Destiny over here that there are some questions that still need to be answered. How they are integrated into the military.
God, I hate watching this because I feel so bad for Elijah. I shouldn't, but I do because I've been a fan of him for a long time, and he's spiraling for months now.
I don't think we ever got the bathroom question fully answered. I also believe the understanding of how we teach children is very integral, and when and how we teach them about this, since they are such a small minority of people, and why they're.
And this is 3 years ago, so Elijah's not going to talk about what I was just talking about because this is fairly recent. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we've been seeing this go crazy with the shootings. Maybe there was a little bit of it back 3 years ago, but it wasn't like it is now.
There is this increase in identifying as transgenders in newer and younger generations. All ideas I hope to discuss and come to some great conclusions on.
All right, Sounds good. I think where I'd like to start is transgenders in sports, because it seems like something that you guys might agree on.
Okay, I said after openings. But I do got to go to the restroom, so here you go.
Jizz goggles balls. 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 Jizz goggles Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles
The heck? Is my water shut off? Hold on. What the heck is wrong with my... For some reason, the water's not filling up in my toilet. Oh my God. Huh. Now I'm going to be worried about that. I'm going to have to put in a maintenance order or something. All right.
What are your takes on that?
I think that sports are very different depending on what level you're playing at. When we're talking about grade school and high school, I think that the idea of sports is you have children that are physically active and you've got children that are integrated into these kind of socially cohesive groups. I also don't think that the level of competitiveness rises.
That's not even true. Are you crazy? That is not the first rule. Tell me a successful streamer who reads every chat. You won't find one.
To us needing to make sure that there is like 100% good competition.
Don't try to fix it. You will 100% break it. I installed the damn toilet. You know I can build a house, dude.
In a woman's sport or a male sport. So I think for trans people, I think when it comes to grade school or high school, I think they should be included in whatever they identify as, assuming they're making some effort to transition or, I think whatever the person would reasonably want to play as. Obviously, this is going to mean that like you're not going to have a 17-year-old boy who's like, I just want to play in women's sports. There'll have to be people that are making a legitimate effort to, at the very least, socially transition over in that direction. I think that once you hit college and we start talking about scholarships, we start talking about NCAA positions, I think that the argument becomes a lot less tenable to where it seems harder to, we're really talking about trans women being included in cis women's sports because nobody seems to have a problem with
I don't
trans
know.
women
It
being
worked
in
last
cis
night.
men's
It doesn't
sports
work
or
now.
the open sports bracket. I think it's harder to defend the idea that trans women should be competing alongside cis women unless perhaps they've transitioned before puberty's happened. But yeah.
Elijah?
Yeah, I think the trans debate in sports is important to make a distinction between when you have a high stakes sports competition, right? Obviously, if you have random people in some sort of a intramural sports in college where the stakes are not high and people are just playing. I mean, you can even have intersex teams, men and women playing together. And transgenders just playing on casual sports teams is not really that big of a deal because there's nothing really to lose or to gain. But when we talk about sports, I don't think we're really talking a lot about high school, even though it is interesting that back in 2017, even UCLA was saying about 0.7% of youth 13 to 17 identified as transgender, and even modern studies just last year say it
Now
could be
it's
1.6 to 2.3%. So whether that's a number about 150,000 to 400,000 or more, depending on which study you read, they also said about 12 to 14% of high schoolers, specifically of youth, will go on probably to play some sports. That is an issue, but my biggest take is when you actually enter into competition, and I think we agree on this, the problem is when you have scholarships at play, when you have the ability and access to higher universities where it can lead on to professional sports, high school does become an important part of the competition and the discussion and argument, and so does junior high, which is part of the initial training to move on and to actually become an elite player or an active role model inside of whatever league you're playing or sport. And so I want to say with the transgender issue, this is a problem because specifically there's no greater issue, I think, where the disparities between men and trans men and women and trans women come into play than directly in physical competition simply based on their biological traits alone. So I think this discussion is important, and I also think that transgender should not be allowed to play in any sort of competitive sports with the biological gender at all.
Well, I think where a lot of this comes into play is the fact that we're letting people transition at a fairly young age, some might say, around 18, I guess. Would you be okay with people transitioning in high school, or would you want them to wait till they're 21?
How about don't?
So we're saying outside of sports, just transitioning in general?
Yes, because I feel like that's what impacts these
Do I want that? I'd rather they not do it at all.
sports, and that's why we're having this debate right now.
Yeah, so I think there's a distinction.
This is the thing. Everybody says, they'll always say, I don't want kids to do it. But once you're an adult, you can do whatever you want with your body. No, it should be illegal for adults too, because kids want to be like adults. So if kids see that adults are doing this and adults can do it, then the kids want to do it. If no adults did it, if they weren't allowed to do it, then the kids, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about kids. If you want to chop your thing and laying off, you need to go do it. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to get in trouble with YouTube, but I'm just saying, you want it done, get it done yourself.
Distinction between being transgender and being transsexual, which modern terms say transsexual is down the line of transgenderism.
I know how to fix the dang toilet. I just don't want to do it because, what's it called? Because maintenance is supposed to do it. I ain't getting paid for that.
But if you're transgender, we have a hard time even finding a standard of when you actually are.
If I don't need no parts or anything, I'll fix it in a minute or when I'm done here. But if I think the valve is, I don't think water pressure is coming through. I don't know. This apartment's old.
Considered transgender. I mean, some people go as far to argue that it's, whenever you decide that you have dysphoria or you decide that you are the opposite gender or sex with the understanding that they are not linked or with that acceptance, which I disagree with. But on top of that, if you move further along the line, you can get diagnosed with gender dysphoria, with gender identity disorder. You can go through treatment, usually about a year of counseling. Sometimes recommendations are made, right? You might have androgens, you might have even puberty blockers, and you might go as far as to actually have cross-sex surgery, which I say would make you more of a transsexual itself. I don't believe that any minors should be, to your question, should be getting any sort of puberty blockers. I believe that's child abuse. I don't believe that you should be using off-label medication like that. I mean, we saw that argument even with ivermectin during COVID. There's a lot of dangers involved with over 24,000 cases recently, just in the last decade with the FDA, of harmful effects due to lack of study for the specific use. Cross-sex hormones in itself could be more of a moral argument, but I disagree with that as well, especially for a minor, considering their fragile state, their development, and where they are at in life. And of course, I do not believe that any sort of surgery, including mastectomy or any sort of bottom is the common term, bottom surgery, should be accessible to minors. I believe that is an adult decision, and if you're asking this, yeah, I do not believe the minor
Shouldn't
should
be
have
an
access to
adult
that.
decision
And I don't
either.
believe if trans people want to play in sports that have any sort of stakes that could lead to long-term life effects for anybody of the biological sex, they should have their own league of some sort or some sort of alternative set up for them.
And what's your response to that, Destiny?
So wait, to which part?
The transgender inclusion in sports and the debate around at what age should they be allowed to transition.
Okay, so tackling the age part first. I think that 3 people should be involved in making a decision related to
No,
trans
it works
healthcare.
on the
That should be
sync.
parents. I think it should be the child.
I
and then
checked
I
the
think it should be
sync.
whatever medical team you have that you are consulting with the parents and the child. I don't like the idea that the government needs to step in and they need to say, hey, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to pursue this. I think it's wholly inappropriate. I don't think the government has a stake there into intervening in that conversation. I think this is an issue that families and doctors should deal with. A lot of people can be critical of how some of these like gender clinics have been run, which is fine. I mean, some people are critical of how ADHD drugs are prescribed. I don't think we would ban all this entire class of drugs available to children just because there are some problems, which we can acknowledge, which we can improve on. So, in terms of like the appropriate age to pursue any sort of, whether we're talking about puberty blockers or whether we're talking, further on the road like hormone replacement therapy or further on the road, gender affirming surgeries like bottom or top surgery, I think that's a conversation that's best left to the medical professionals and to the family. In terms of when people can participate in schools,
That doesn't tell us
sports,
anything.
I firmly believe that high school and grade school sports are a place where you develop camaraderie, where you have a social group and you have fun. I understand that you're going to have scouts that are working at high school levels, but I mean, I think you can still pick out good players. I don't think we're going to see high school teams dominated by, hundreds of, massive trans women that are just destroying all the cis women's sports. Trans people are a small enough section of the society that I don't think that that's a foreseeable issue, and I don't think you're hogging or occupying a really important slot like you would be in the NCAA, where, you've got like 100 times less of these slots available for people to compete in, which is where I think you do have legitimate arguments for should trans women be allowed to compete with cis women at these levels.
So you'd allow them to play on the team in high school, but not in college. What do they, if they're in high school sports, their goal is probably to get into college sports. Look at his face. Even he doesn't believe the shit he's saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is an interesting conversation specifically at a high school level, because even if you took UCLA's recent research, maybe you're talking about 19,000 actual transgender students trying to compete in sports in about
Weisheit.
24,000 different high schools.
What's
So you're
Weisheit?
talking about less than one
In a
transgender
minute.
that's playing sports in every single high school. This does beg the question, though, the importance, and I'd love to talk to you about this, of where we make the distinction with young people on where we acknowledge that they truly are transgender, or we acknowledge them as transsexual, if we want to use a more of the medical term, and where that mark comes, because there obviously are young men and young women who will abuse any system, right? I mean, you tell kids they can't talk, then they write notes. They can't write notes, then they text. They find ways around all types of things to be rebellious and to fight against the system. But when it comes to the transgender debate, I feel like we do ourselves a very disservice, both medically and socially, in the fact that I don't think we can find the congruence of how to define this genuinely to where we say, here's at the point to where you actually are a transsexual, and we are going to acknowledge you in society as the opposite sex. We are going to give you that acknowledgement, realizing that it may
Never.
not be genuinely or biologically real, but at least you have the disorder, you have dysphoria. This isn't the same dysphoria that most prepubescent, up to 98% of kids that have grow
Just
out
end
of,
up
or
being gay.
mid-pubescent, like 88 to 85% of kids grow out of. You are in the middle of something strong and powerful, and it's going to last. And that's my worry with high school or with any of these things, since the majority of kids do grow out of dysphoria and they're not old enough to even get the surgeries or to get access to some of these things, specifically state to state, even with hormone therapies, how we can let people who haven't even gone through transition compete with a biological sex, specifically with trans women, that they have an advantage over.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, like this comes down to the conversations between doctors.
Well, you don't see trans boy to girl going, girl to boy going into boys sports. They're not doing that because they know they'll get destroyed. It's the boys going into girl sports because they suck against the other boys. Pause. But they can win against the girls. Makes them feel strong. Bi means both. Because they're not bi, they're trans.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles. those balls. She's got 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 those balls.
I'm gonna retire this song after this. I don't appreciate this.
Why are you gay? Why are you gay?
Oh, Destiny.
She's got those balls. 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 She's got those balls.
No, it's not a good business move to let you guys talk trash about me all the time. It's not a good business move to have a song about me gargling balls that I play on my stream all the time. That's not a good business move. I don't appreciate it.
And children. If you've got like a 17-year-old guy and he's like, I'm going to
Get
identify
no respect.
as female this year.
I'm just going to start banning people for talking smack all the time.
the people of the women's team, probably not good.
I know,
But if
I
you've got
see
a
the
child
goal.
that since puberty seems to be having some issues that
Yeah, I
aren't
want
alleviated
that
through
song, JS
anything
Crushes
else
Box.
besides addressing them as a trans person and working through that vector, then I think there are more legitimate arguments, especially when drugs like puberty blockers become involved, for these people to participate in sports that more closely resemble their gender identity. I do
Now I'm going to have this song stuck in my head.
agree that it is complicated and it is difficult, and we need to refine the processes by which we figure out, who is
Yeah,
trans.
you're gonna be
But
first.
I think the issue is that there
Ban
are a
him.
lot of people, or there's the possibility that a person in high school might think they're trans, but they're not actually trans. But if they are trans, they'll definitely think they're trans. So we know that there are people that, especially when puberty is beginning, are going to have these feelings that are never going to go away. They're not going to grow out of that. And then you've got
They
other
do.
people that are maybe depressed, maybe
He just gave you the studies. They do grow out of it. A lot of them grow out of it, and a lot of them regret it. We're starting to see that. You're talking about something that's way too early to make that judgment that they're not going to grow out of it, when a lot of them do grow out of it. He said, what did he say, 85%? A huge percentage of them do grow out of it. And a percentage of them, I don't know how big it is, regret it. And they detransition. That's why there's detransitioners. So you're wrong, Destiny.
anxious, maybe just whatever normal teen stuff that they will eventually grow out of, as most do. And I think what we need to do is we need to create an environment where those types of conversations and that type of support can exist.
No, I'm not. I played the one from you and Spartacus, and I played the one from Shazzy. $1.70 is the only unaccounted for moolah right now. And that don't get you nothing. Yeah, can we get Destiny Gargles balls? Coomer Gremlin is advocating for kids to get wrecked just for his ideology and political motivations. Yeah, you can just tell by his face he doesn't even believe the shit he's saying. But his audience needs him to say it. This is how he becomes an alpha male, is by becoming popular and getting 1 million people to follow him and be beta males. As if everybody in the land of what is it? In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the land of the trans, the bi guy is king, I guess.
Where we're not constantly accusing, everybody of either trying to, groom everybody into being trans, or we're trying to say everybody needs to not be trans because we don't believe in it at all. I think creating that safe space for those conversations to happen between the families and the doctors and whatever therapy is necessary is the important part to kind of figure that issue out. Because I think, I could be wrong, but I think we'd probably agree if we had like a brain scan device and we could push a button and know 100%, like at 14, you're trans, you're not, you're trans, you're not, then I think the rest of this conversation becomes a lot easier.
No,
right?
that's not a
Like, if we
thing.
know 100% that you're trans and you're going going to be trans forever, things like puberty blockers or hormone replacement therapy is probably less controversial. The biggest fear we have is figuring out the children that don't know and we don't know how to pursue it. And then people are rightfully, I think, worried that somebody is pushing too hard on.
What a stupid hypothetical. A brain scan machine that tells you that you're a made up thing. Nope. That's not going to work.
Either side to either convince somebody that they're trans or say that there's no way they can be trans.
Yeah, and I do agree that we have that same notion.
Camera.
But where I want to point out is, since in most states you cannot get access to the puberty blockers, to the cross-sex hormones, without that sort of trilateral communication between parents and doctors and students, that we're heading in a direction to where the state, specifically state-funded schools, are deciding that that's
I did. I just drank way too much coffee. I need water now. I'm starting to my heart's beating all fast.
safe space, that environment that you talked about that needs to happen is their responsibility. And you even have cases where schools are acknowledging kids' pronouns or new names or their new identity without acknowledging or talking to the parents. You seem to disagree with that, and you've already stated your premise of the people you'd like involved. But I happen to also know that we have a discussion specifically where I'm from in Texas, which is going to be probably fairly unpopular in this room, but I see gender dysphoria and the identity disorder, or different variations they're working on currently, the APA, as being something to be looked at like schizophrenia, like anorexia, something that should not be affirmed. And I get really worried when we talk to youth, specifically the way it's presented, about affirming care, right? This status quo, the word affirm, to like hold to be true, or we talk about gender confirmation, and even allowing or acknowledging or making the precedent to have transgender students join in sports is sort of a public acknowledgement that we think that kids can declare themselves to be transgender, that they have the medical right to do so. And also this, I believe, creates what I think is Lisa Littman that is created the new term, the onset of gender dysphoria, the quick onset. She talks about the rapid onset is what it's called, where you create this fake
rapid onset gender dysphoria.
I guess they call it narrative, or just it gets transmitted through social media, where people start seeing these unique cases of people that are being acknowledged, and you have a proliferation of individuals who are now identifying as transgender without even defining what it is. And that's what makes it hard for me to accept any of it, because even when I talk to gender specialists, or even if you look at ancient gender thinkers and philosophers like John Money, etc., these people still couldn't define these issues, and 50, 60, 70 years later, I feel like we still can't even define what a transgender youth actually is. So where would we actually create that definition? Like, where do we draw the line on, you are officially transgender, you're not a boy trying to play in girls?
Right, we can't even define what it is. This is what Billboard Chris does all the time. He asks these trans people, what is a trans person? And they never have an answer. Not a good answer. It's someone who identifies as a different gender. So anybody could just say, I'm a woman now. They have no good definition. If we can't even the trans people can't even give you a good definition of what it is, how are you going to come up with a machine to read it in their brain? There's no gauging. There's no trans brain structure. They say that a trans person's brain will look more like the brain that they identify with. That's neuroplasticity. If I convince myself that I'm depressed and I walk around, quote unquote, depressed for 5 years, my brain's going to look like another depressed person's brain. But it's not my brain chemistry that made me depressed. It's thinking I was depressed and living in a depressed manner that makes my brain look like a quote unquote depressed person's brain. If you try to think like the other sex, and you dress like the other sex, and you talk like the other sex, and you act like the other sex, your brain changes to look more similar to the other sex. You're using different parts of your brain.
Sports.
So, I mean, figuring out that line is difficult, but it's possible if we acknowledge that trans people are real. Now, there are some people that are going to say that, like, you're not a trans man, you're just a tomboy, or you're not a trans woman.
I know, Coco, and that's why so many autistic kids fall into it, is because it's targeted towards vulnerable-minded people. It's not. Somebody said, I can't remember what I was listening to, but they said, there may be something about the autistic brain that leads them to be more likely to be gay or trans or part of the LGBTQ. No. It's because these groups target the most vulnerable, soft-minded people. So it'll affect kids that are just dumb and gullible, but it'll also affect kids who can't help it that they're a little more vulnerable. They were born that way. I made you a video. How do I get it to you? Are you in Carney's Discord? No. I'm in my Discord. Just put it just join the Discord and then post it in the general chat.
You're just an effeminate male, maybe you're.
I don't
gay or
know if I
something,
want to watch it.
You have people that still make these arguments. If we'll put those in another box, maybe discuss that. But if we do believe that trans people are real, I think there's a couple of important things that we can say. One is that it's going to be noticed around puberty for sure if it doesn't start earlier, because that's when you start to see the biggest changes in your body, and that's when you're really going to start to heighten your dysphoria. And then two, I think it's important to talk about the difference between gender dysphoria versus other things like anorexia or schizophrenia. When we talk about things like anorexia or schizophrenia, these are mental illnesses of delusions. Like you are not
Oh yeah, but thinking you're a different gender, that's not delusional.
seeing something accurately, or you're perceiving something that's not there. So for instance, for an anorexic person, if you've known an anorexic person, you can have a person who is, they're 5'7" and they're 85 pounds, and they look in the mirror and they still think they're fat. They can still see that, like, I have too much weight, I've got to change something. Or schizophrenic people oftentimes can have auditory or visual hallucinations of things that aren't there. When it comes to trans people with dysphoria, there isn't a delusion. They look in the mirror, they see exactly what they see, they recognize what they see, but the problem is they just feel like they're not in the correct body. They feel like there's some sort of
feel like they're not in the
between
correct
mind and
body.
but they're able to perceive what exists as it does exist.
No, they just don't like what they look at. And no, a lot of people look at their body and they don't like it. And then if you're from a young age, you're told you could be the other gender. It's not, there's no feel like they're not in the right body. This is all stuff that's been put into people's heads through propaganda and now the media and a bunch of highly educated psychopaths.
Which is why when an anorexic person loses weight, they don't feel good. They don't like, oh, cool, I hit my goal weight. Like, thank God I bulimicked myself down to 85 pounds and now I'm good. But whereas with a trans person, you can alleviate dysphoria using either drug therapy or surgeries or social transitioning. And again, like, there's not like a delusional aspect there. They can perceive everything accurately. It's just a feeling that they have in their body that they're trying to get to match with,
I need
with what's
water.
going on in their head.
I drank way too much coffee way too fast. Woo! Oh, crap.
So I agree on your first point that we can actually come and find a standard, or at least a medical standard and a social standard to which we can define things. I think we'd be privy to actually use the medical standard as our social standard, which we seem to have abandoned. But I completely disagree with the premise there that they're not in a delusion. Because when you actually look at an anorexic person, right, you're talking about a disorder, that's an eating disorder. It's not exactly the same thing, you're correct, as mental illness, as schizophrenia. There are other delusions that are out there. But somebody looking at their body and the way they're born, I mean, have you met anorexic people? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I have. And I know when they look in the mirror, they are skinny, but they see something else there. They continually tell you they're fat, they're overweight, right? And we even have bulimia nervosa, another disorder where you can't keep your food down and you trigger and you think you can't keep it down, but you really can, and you have an inactive gag reflex and control over it. It's a very odd thing. But when you're talking about this idea, I think this is where everyone.
What did Elderline clip? My prostate is failing. Stupid. What is this? Stop, that's gross. Get that out of here. I don't even like looking at it. I don't want to look at that. I don't like it. Oh my God, that's making me gag. I don't like it. Get it off my screen. I'm not watching it. I'm not watching it. That like actually made me nauseous. I can't watch that. I almost threw up just now.
Begins to disagree on both sides of the argument is that this disorder is now being treated specifically with words, like I mentioned earlier, of confirmation or affirming that you've even agreed right here that, yeah, they're not delusional. This is really who they are. But I don't understand with what test, with which function, besides what we have now, which are not necessarily empirical, but are more through the consolatory or psychiatric means that we diagnose people with these things, where can we actually define
Get that
or point
outta
to something
here.
to say, yeah, this isn't a delusion. You really are that. And why do we make a space specifically for this one in particular in regards to any other disorder that exists specifically in the youth?
I think when it comes to problems of the mind, we kind of have to rely on a lot of
Why are my legs up by my... I do sit like that sometimes.
self-reporting. We don't cut into people's brains to see if they're I mean, even for schizophrenia,
I'm deleting
there might be
that.
some
I don't like
post-mortem
that.
tests you can do. But like, you don't cut into brains to see if somebody has depression or GAD or any of ADHD. Like, you just kind of have to go by self-reporting, and then based on what they say, you treat them, and then based on how the treatment goes, you look at the efficacy and say, okay, this is good or this is bad. It's either working or not working.
What's the plan this week? What do you mean? What's the plan this week? This week's almost over. I'm going to do the same thing I do every weekend. Try to take over the world. I have a spit pick. What are you talking about?
I think when it comes to trans people, you kind of have to do
Don't
the same
be
thing.
a
And I think there's like a
BBB, what's
markedly
that?
different way in our approach with them as compared to what we would look at with somebody like anorexia, right? If you go to a doctor and, you say, hey, I'm anorexic, the reason why they don't affirm that idea is because the idea is a delusion. If you tell an anorexic person, like, okay, well, listen, like, if you just lose 5 more pounds and you hit the gym, it's going to go away. That's not going to be the case. They can lose as much weight as possible until you literally see the skin hanging off the bones, and they're still going to feel like they're overweight. Whereas with trans people, we do have a way where if you begin to transition, it does seem like there is a true fact in the mind of what your gender identity is, which for however reasons, whatever.
No, it doesn't stop them from being mentally ill. And that's why 3 years later, they're shooting up schools and they're still offing themselves at very high rates.
Happens, it can become divorced from what your body presents as, that if you can bring the body
Baby back
into congruence with the
biatch.
mind, you do actually see a massive alleviation of the dysphoria. Whereas I'm not aware of any like losing weight or gym or dieting treatments that alleviates issues related to like anorexia. And I'm not aware of like, if I just put out an extra chair and your schizophrenic, hallucination could sit there, you'll feel better about it. It doesn't seem like affirming these kinds of psychiatric or mental illnesses helps. Whereas with trans people, it seems like there is some underlying fact of the matter where if you can bring the body in line with something, you do actually have help there.
So just to clarify before I comment, when you're acknowledging the fact, you're saying, okay, so treatment improves, which I'll get to in a moment, but you're saying, so then that acknowledges, or you're at least making that an acknowledgement that they are being honest, that they really were born in the wrong body. They have the disassociation between the mind, the soul, the spirit, however you want to define it religiously or a-religiously, and the physical being. Is that what you mean?
I don't know if I would say born in the wrong body. Maybe this is something that turns on when you're 3 or 4. Maybe like I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know 100% because I don't. Even for sexuality, I don't think we know. Are you gay or straight at birth, or is that something that develops later on? But yeah, I do believe, and I think most trans people,
No, there's
not
no
the ones
gay
on Twitter,
gene.
but I think most trans people in real life would acknowledge that there is like an underlying fact of the matter in your head about the type of gender you are.
Yeah, I know it's unpopular to say trans people aren't people, but on Twitter, nobody's a person, so that's true. In fact, Twitter's a crazy place where you see the worst of the world. But I find it so strange, though, because when you have, obviously,
That hasn't
severe
changed.
cases of struggling with mental illness in a lot of the LGBTQ community for a variety of reasons, and I don't even like calling it the community because there's just such a difference between somebody who's asexual. I don't know how they got grouped in there. Someone's like, hey, you don't like to have sex? You're in the group that talks about sex the most. It doesn't make any sense. And And of course, the queerness and all these things are on a different spectrum. But we know that there's an issue. And the T part of this is still a debate, even in the LGBT. You even have this idea of these TERFs and different people out there that get their own category when they come against the trans. This is a new social movement. It's a cross between a real disorder and, I would say, a fad. I think there's a trans fad going on. I don't believe there's any larger explanation per se in this. I understand even too with the gay thing, not necessarily just being a fad, which I do think it partly is, because maybe people couldn't come out of the closet many years ago. I'm being honest. People couldn't come out of the closet. Maybe more people feel more honest or open to express themselves. With the transgender ideology, with this going on, being about, I think in 2017 was the last time I saw the DSM updated on a specific poll that was looked at, about 0.5% of the population above 65 being transgender, as the idea of having been diagnosed and receiving some sort of care. 0.6% in the mid group, and then in the younger group, which I think was under 21, was the 0.7%. That has been just changed drastically. I said it's doubled or tripled in the last few years. It fascinates me, though, that with the suicide attempt rate being so significantly higher in the trans group at around 41%. Some people say it's above 50%, some below 30%. Everyone's got their own study. But in the average population, the best I could find was about 4% in the average population, which I'm sure some people here have attempted suicide. But when I looked at the numbers of once people had received gender-affirming care, I'd looked at some sources, including Heritage, which could be biased, and tried to look at Human Rights Watch and a few others that were trying to explain, which is very hard on Google, by the way, or any search.
This is prior to that, was it Swedish study that came out that showed that there was no decrease in suicidality.
Search engine or even any book to really find accurate data, information, or studies that tell you how many people are killing themselves after receiving the full transsexual change into the opposite gender. And I mean that genuinely. It is very hard to find reliable information. Why?
Is he gay? Are you talking about Elijah? There are rumors.
Because it's a new and emerging trait, and also this transition, for lack of better words, to believing in these words affirming and confirmation. This is the holistic approach, the endocrinologist society and whatnot coming together and choosing this is in the last decade at least. So what I did find, though, is that still there's about like a 19 times higher risk even after surgery towards self-harm, number one. I couldn't conflate that with suicide, but it looked like the rates were somewhere around there. If this was the path forward, and this is really what we need to do to change and to help these people, why, A, are we not doing something about this becoming more popular? Because if it's such a volatile situation and lifestyle to live in that leads to so much self-harm, why aren't we trying to contain this disorder or this issue like we would with something else? Can we? And then B, if that really was the answer, why does it seem like the instability, the mental health?
Yeah, you can contain it. Stop having pride parades. Stop having Pride Month. Stop having a month where adults bring their children to a parade that celebrates your sexuality. Why are we even, well, trans is different, but with like talking about kids being gay and lesbian, it's like you're talking about who they want to have sex with. Why are we even talking about kids having sex? It's perverted. But the trans thing, yeah. Stop having, in Salt Lake City during Pride Month, everyone has a freaking gay flag in their front yard. When you do that, you're making a movement. It's going to grow. And then these people are more likely to end up on drugs. And I'm not just talking about the T's. I'm talking about the LGBTQIIAP plus MMIWG two-spirit slug butts. You're going to be more likely to be promiscuous and possibly catch STDs. You're going to be more likely to end up depressed and not have a family. You're going to be more likely to end up in jail. You're going to be more likely to end up offing yourself. You're going to be more likely to be on drugs. Why would we fly flags in front of our house promoting this lifestyle? That's how you reduce it and contain it.
And the suicide attempts are still so much higher than the general population.
So there's two parts to this. So for the first one, I think if anybody is honest, there is a bit of like kind of like the trans fad stuff going on. So this is kind of when I have these conversations, I implore people to draw a distinction between two groups of people. Some people would call this position transmedicalist, maybe, maybe not. But like, I think you have trans people that experience dysphoria to some level, and then you have non-dysphoric trans people. Now, in that category of trans people that have dysphoria, I think that the path forward is a lot more straightforward. Your life is going to take a path where you're hopefully are trying to alleviate your dysphoria using social transitioning, medical transitioning. For the non-dysphoric people, I think we end up in kind of a different world where people are identifying as trans, but maybe they don't feel like they have dysphoria, they don't want to transition or whatever. I kind of put them to the side, and that's kind of like a different conversation. If I see that like the number of people that identify as trans has gone up to like 2.6% or whatever.
Shazzy, that's horrible. But I don't think you should be putting your business all out in a YouTube chat like that. But that's not good.
I think what I'd be more worried about, and I'm glad you're honest about this, and I'll be honest about this on my end, that the data is really hard to come by because all of this is incredibly new and the comparisons are very difficult. If you're getting a bunch of people that say like, like I've got a nose piercing and blue hair and I'm a non-binary trans fan, whatever, who cares? And like if people aren't getting drugs or they're college kids, no offense to any of you guys, but like college kids are insane. They've always been insane. The difference is now they have social media, so now everybody sees their insanity and it's just a whole other world out there. But yeah, I mean, let people explore their identities, do that. Most of them will probably grow out of it. So putting that aside, if we acknowledge that there is some group of like of actually dysphoric people, when you look at the medical side of things, one of the difficult things about studying like post and pre-transition trans people is there's a couple of things. One is sometimes people use studies inappropriately. So I know there was a common one. I wish I could remember the author name, but Ben Shapiro used to cite this at colleges all the time. And one of the researchers on that project came out and explained like, hey, this study was never supposed to compare like post-transitioning people to another group of people to see if there was actually like a lot of efficacy in the treatment. The study was analyzing something different. The tables are being used inappropriately, et cetera, et cetera. Another complaint that I've heard when it comes to some of the transitioning studies is when you're looking at people that have gone through a lot of transitioning versus not, sometimes you're looking at the people that are the most dysphoric. So the idea that they're going to also still be like at elevated rates of suicidality even post-transition kind of makes sense. It's kind of like the argument of like, every time I see every time I see a fire truck, there seems to be a house on fire. Like, what are they doing? And it's, well, obviously the fire truck goes where the fire is. And when it comes to like people that are seeking gender-affirming surgery or gender-affirming care, these are probably the people that are the most dysphoric, so some of the numbers will be elevated. I do agree that we still need to collect more data. As you've said, like all of this stuff is incredibly new. I would also agree, well, you didn't say this, but I know you believe this. I would definitely agree that there is a lack of honesty sometimes with people on the left, where it seems like there's this rampant obsession with affirmation without taking a step back to question things sometimes, which I think does a disservice to the medical ideas, to the community at large, and to trans people themselves. So yeah, I would hope, as I said in the beginning, like I think the goal is to create like an environment where
I know, Shazzy. I'm just saying, I don't know if you want to be putting all that in a YouTube chat. I don't know. You can do what you want. And that's horrible that happened to you, but dang, girl.
you can have better conversations about these things where we can question some of the data coming out, is this appropriate, is this the best thing, while also still having an open mind that like maybe these are good things to do, maybe we can, help people in this way. Yeah.
Even though you don't believe that there's enough data to prove that transitioning helps, do you think people should still be allowed to do it?
Well, I think the question of specifically with adults of having the access or the ability to do certain things brings up a number of questions.
No, a doctor should not be allowed to do that to someone.
I think we really have to make that distinction between children and adults, and in this case, I'll just reference people that are older than 18 that have the right to vote. For some reason, don't have the right to drink. You can die for your country, but you can't get drunk in it. It is an
If you are in your home and you know how to do medical procedures so that you don't die, you do it to yourself. But a doctor should not be allowed to do that to anyone, adult or child. Do no harm. That's the Hippocratic Oath. And it is harmful.
interesting position that we're in, and I don't even think we can agree. People don't know. We
That's
don't even
part
have
of the Hippocratic
very
Oath,
many
but-
universal, even alcohol laws, right? Some of the ways that states are putting in 21 to drink is simply based on the federal government withholding provisions and tax dollars for road projects, and they just want the road money. And so they just make this arbitrary age, and then we don't have a discussion, and we all just drink at 21, right? None of you guys drank before 21. You're in college. You never did before, right? Police are here.
Yep.
Don't worry, officers. No, but so we've had this before, where we just create these categories, we live by them, we accept them as truth, we don't debate them, and then now we live in this society that's defined by them. And I think trans is at the precipice of where we need to begin to argue, because I
Yep.
don't believe,
That's true,
and I'll say this
Shazzy.
confidently, I don't believe the trans identity is real in the same way that I don't believe like in an anorexic identity. I don't think identifying as trans is doing anything but a disservice to people, only because when we detach our
I don't think gay is a real identity. And homosexual is a misnomer. Homos can't have sex. So it's homosodomule. But it's not an identity. It's just a bad habit you have.
ourselves into the metaphysical or into the psychological in a society that can't even agree on God, into letting people define what their sex is. When we say things like gender and sex are separated and gender is a social construct, that's
I don't think alcoholic or drug addict is an identity either. It's just a bad habit you have. Something your fleshy body fell into that you can overcome. But as soon as you accept it as an identity, then that becomes you.
statement itself is a social construct, and then I have the power to redefine that construct myself. It takes away, it creates a node of disruption, it takes away cohesiveness in a society, and what it does is it creates confusion, as we're seeing now as they start to teach young kids, that there is some sort of third alternative option, that trans is not a disorder, or it's not an abnormality, just like any sort of abnormality of the mind, but this becomes sort of an option that is out there, which I think can be credited with part of the rise of the popularity. I've seen when people come out as trans, they get cheered. I mean, you can watch even videos on Twitter. You can see classroom stories. You can see, I think, what was that one classroom? That 3-4.
It's no different than when you're an alcoholic and you go to AA and you say, "Hi, my name's Steve and I'm an alcoholic," and they all go, "Hi, Steve, you're an alcoholic. It's not your fault. God made you that way."
Of the students came out as LGBTQ to the teacher at the same time. Very, very strange occurrences of even certain schools, certain cities, certain areas having a
Yeah.
higher prevalence of these.
Yeah. Hey, I got a disease. I can't do I gotta do Norm. You heard what they say about alcoholism? They say it's like the best disease. It's the only disease where you can go to a bar and possibly find someone with the same disease and have sex with them.
Disorders when somebody comes out, etc. So I don't believe that affirming this or confirming this does anything but creates problems for society and for the individual. I'm not going to claim to say that I am a physician and that I have the best alternative option. And you could even argue, if you want to, that as of right now, this sort of care is the best care we have. But if this isn't political, if this isn't some sort of a movement or
Yeah.
a social,
You know, that's what they teach you in Alcoholics Anonymous is once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. So then you got people who've overcome the fake disease that's not a disease. They've overcome it, but they still identify with it. But Glenn Beck's a Mormon, so what do you expect?
pressure, then why would we ever use these words like confirm and affirm, and rather than just like treatment or this a way to actually deal with something or lower their risk or taking away their ability to kill themselves at a higher rate type of thing. It seems so influenced by politics, by the social movement, that it's hard to take it seriously. Plus these gender clinics and these societies, this is what's dangerous to me, have sort of popped up with these new treatments rather recently, and a lot of amazing parents that I feel bad for and doctors, like you said, in that agreement, come together. They look to the research, they look to these societies, which I believe are heavily biased politically, and I don't believe they're following true and honest long-term, long-form science, and they're overconfidently speaking on what they think they know, that I don't believe the parents and the doctors are evil in trying to hurt these trans kids or even these adults who might make decisions without their parents. I just don't believe that the doctors realize that there is a political movement outside of this, and I don't think the current procedure or current treatment is the best form forward, specifically with the high rate of suicide that's continued, and also the fact that more and more people now, as they see this, are identifying as trans. I find that to be an alarming part of the country. 2.3% is very high.
Yeah, since a lot of people, I saw a study that showed Gen Z has the most people who are coming out as gay, transgender, and all the LGBT categories. This is something I've noticed too as a young person, that it's in college classrooms, it's in high schools, and maybe younger. I can't speak to that, but I've heard people say in Florida, that's why they did this Don't Say Gay bill. Do you think this is something that should be taught or talked about in schools? And if so, when and where?
Hello, test, test. Hello, hello. Can I respond to some of what he said as well and then take that question? Can I respond to what he said? Yeah, okay. So I think that something that gets lost when we have these conversations, I'm assuming you're non-trans.
Yep, Chuck.
Maybe.
Okay.
And it doesn't just apply to those things I listed. It applies to all quote unquote mental illnesses. Once you identify with it, you do got it. You believe you got it, you got it. It's what you believe in. You can overcome it. You don't even have to cure it because it's not actually an illness. You just have to stop believing in it and giving it power.
I'm non-trans. I think sometimes when we have these discussions, it's very easy to have this very cold, dispassionate, like, where do trans people fit in? How do we figure this out? What are we allowing in schools? I think for me, it's important to take a step back and like figure out, like, okay, well, like, what are we talking about? At its like purest essence, there's a group of people in the country, in the world, that seem to have some issue going on that has to be addressed. It requires something. Otherwise, these people are basically condemned to suffer a great deal of harm for the rest of their lives. So this is like at the root of everything we're dealing with. There's some group of people that, regardless of how we feel about them or how we want to, push them under the rug or how we want to treat them, they're going to be suffering to some case for their entire life if they don't get treatment. So then the next question becomes, if you believe that we should be creating a society that helps and serves the most people, what can we do for these people? So that's like the lens through which I view all of these things. Even if some of these things become political, even if there are social pressures, even if whatever, at the end of the day, we have to remember there are actual real people that we're talking about.
Chazzy, why are you speaking in all caps? What are you doing? And also, Wrath is speaking in all caps. Why is everybody speaking in all caps? What is wrong with you people? No, Wrath, you cannot fly. Okay? We're talking about things in your brain, not physical things. You can't, if you try to jump off a building, you're gonna have worse than mental illness when you hit the ground.
There are real lives that are impacted by this, and we should be making some effort to accommodate, I would hope, as many people in society as possible. You mentioned this idea that, like, it's uncomfortable, there's this differentiation between sex and gender. I would argue that, like, that differentiation has always existed. We're just not always cognizant of it because we just assume it's not. There's always like this popular talking point where a conservative will say, like, well, what is a woman? What is a man? And, if you're trying to be honest, like, okay, well, women, XX chromosomes, they didn't have reproductive organs, blah, blah, blah. And you can give this very scientific answer, but if I were to ask you,
Or you could just say adult human female. It's not that complicated. What's a female? Someone who produces ova and has the birth passage, the sexual passageways of a female. Ova produces ova. Then you get into the chromosomes. But first, we have to accept that female and male is a thing. Give me authority, JS. I'll put everyone in line. What are you going to do? Wally, since you're becoming Orthodox, can I have your WASP shirt? You can't wear that shirt anymore, and I like that shirt. Can you bring it to DebateCon and give it to me? I want it. I'll represent the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. I'll do it. You can't do it anymore. Give me that shirt.
Like, is that a woman or is that a man? You don't know anybody's genes. You can't point to anybody's chromosomes. You don't even know their genitals oftentimes, right? There's actually a ton of like social signaling that we interpret to figure out, like they've got long hair, they've got shaved legs, they wear a certain outfit, what their name is. And none of these things are like scientifically hardwired to be like that is a sex or that is a gender.
I could see Wally being a mod. I think I could do that. Let me think about it. Maybe this weekend. I'll make you a mod. Been Orthodox since April 13th. Oh, it's for the band, not the term? Oh. Well, still. I want it for the term. I don't even know the band.
So I think that we've always kind of been moving around like our understanding of gender. I grew up, I was born in '88, and I know that conservative parents were freaking out when white people started to wear jewelry on their earrings, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys.
Unforgivable sin.
Yeah, people started to get very upset about that. Conservatives got very upset about that. Kids started to get longer hair. Can you be a man and have long hair? So in terms of like what is a man, what is a woman for gender presentation, expression, these are things that I think are always moving in society, and they probably always will be.
But do you think they're linked, though? I mean, do you think the arguments that were made by radical feminists in the 80s and 90s and onward of this gender identity, that we have study departments, I'm not sure if they have it here, but in this whole exclusionary look at gender outside of sex, knowing that, of course, the variations can exist, people can be more feminine, more masculine, etc., but that there is still this link between your genetics, understanding not just your autosomes, but your sex chromosomes help determine that expression.
You would be an idiot to say that they're not linked at all. Obviously, they're for it seems like the vast majority of people, maybe going by your numbers, 99.3% of these people, sex and gender link up directly, and that your gender identity, what you feel inside, matches exactly, hopefully, the way that you express yourself. But it seems to be the case that there is a fact of the matter that some people have an incongruence for some reason. Now, whether that's environmental, whether that happens because your mom fed you out of the wrong breast or whatever, who knows what causes it. But at some point, it seems like people can develop this idea that they are in the wrong body. And the question goes back to what I said fundamentally. Well, what do we do with these people? Because now they're suffering, and now there's going to be a great deal of harm if you don't alleviate these issues. We've tried conversion therapy for decades. It doesn't seem to work. We tried conversion therapy for gay people. Didn't seem to work. I think that that's another thing that when you bring up this idea between like, do we affirm things or how do we treat them? For a long time, people thought that being homosexual was like a type of delusion or a type of sin. Like if you're around the right people, you can turn back straight. If we put you into certain camps, you can turn back straight. But I mean, it doesn't work, right? You can't take a straight person and make them gay any more than you could take a gay person and make them straight. So I don't see us, having
I'm
the same
not gay
criticism
no
over, like, we have to stop affirming gay people with the delusion that they can like men. It seems like, gay men like men, and that doesn't seem to be a delusion. It seems to be an accurate representation of what's going on. Much the same way that I would say a trans person seems to accurately understand that for whatever reason, that the gender that exists in their brain doesn't seem to be the same one that is expressed sexually in their body. I do agree again with what you said about like there is a higher prevalence of
Trauma,
like people
spiritual
identifying on
trauma.
trans. I think ContraPoints calls. I think she refers to this as like trenders. I think is the word she uses. And there is that weird culture. But I would take a step further and say like I don't really care as much. But whatever.
Hold on, I gotta go turn the air on in my room, so it's gonna be cold when I go in there. Otherwise, it's gonna be hot. It's actually getting chilly in here. Turn that air off. It's getting chilly in here. Turn the other air on. Take them camping, touch grass. Just watch out for ticks. Last thing you need is alpha gal.
identify as a college, like who's getting surgeries, who's detransitioning, like what are the real like on the ground stats. I think that's more important than like obsessing over, you know, whatever the fad is today for college kids. Or more importantly, if we are going to look at that and understand that, okay, maybe there's a problem there, we can't use that problem to then throw all the actual trans people that require some sort of medical or social.
Look, I know I'm wearing the same shirt, right? But I worked all night, went to the gym, came home, started streaming. Destiny is at a public speaking event where he's the guest speaking on a stage. Could you at least like wash your shirt beforehand? Look, the collar, he looks like one of those kids that chews on his collar. What, like, who does this? How does this guy get popular? He didn't get a haircut. He's wearing a dirty ass shirt. Looks like he's been sucking on the sleeves and the neck of the smelly cat, smelly cat. What are they feeding you? Smelly cat, smelly destiny. It's not your fault.
Intervention under the bus, because it's not fair that some group of like lunatics on a college campus can cause actual real measurable harm to other people. Just
don't worry about ticks, you sissy. I've never worried about ticks in my life until I find out they can make me allergic to red meat. That's all I eat is red meat. Speaking of, I have chicken in the air fryer. I totally forgot about. That's probably why I'm so amped up on this coffee, because I need some food in me. That's not red meat, but he lets people smash his wife and probably does the cleanup. And you wonder why he wears weird shit. True. Yeah. I guess overall the shirt is not really that big of a deal, but and he doesn't have a wife anymore. That's propaganda. You don't believe it? I believe it. I believe that they'd put something crazy. Bill Gates would put some weird bioengineered ticks out to make people allergic to meat, and so he can sell us the 3D printed meat and the bugs. You will eat the bugs in the pod. Put us in the pod. Make us eat the bugs and the 3D printed fake meat. I believe it. I ain't playing with no ticks now. I get a tick on me, shoot. But I don't believe in allergies either, so I know I would overcome it. You know, you just gotta nearly go into anaphylactic shock a couple times and you won't be allergic anymore. I know this from experience. That's a joke, YouTube. I am not a doctor. Do not listen to me for any medical information. I'm just saying, you got a bad allergy, you just gotta, never mind. Don't listen to anything I say. I'm gonna get in trouble for medical misinformation. That's a joke. Of course, allergies are real. Yeah, and all these kids are allergic to peanuts and shellfish and gluten. Yeah, that's a real thing. Totally real. Do not try to overcome your allergies, guys.
because we don't want to have the intellectual honesty to take a look at the two different groups of people. And then you asked me a question related to.
What I was specifically asking about is, since this is something that's so controversial that people
when it should be taught in schools.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
Never.
That's always a hard question because it really depends on what the context of the conversation
Are
is.
nuclear
Like,
allergies
I think
real?
that kids in school should know what a gay person is, what a trans person is.
Well, nukes aren't real. So if nukes aren't real and allergies aren't real, maybe it's like a double negative, which means nuclear allergies are real.
And what a straight person is, like probably by like grade 3, 4, or 5. But that doesn't mean that we should be having conversations with children about, like, you know.
Don't worry about Lyme disease. Bill Gates just came out with a brand new Lyme disease vaccine.
this is how gay men have sex, or like if you want to be trans, these are the drugs that you need to take. You know, we have to have some awareness of the reality about us, but I think that it's hard to make like a blanket rule saying, should we have these conversations or shouldn't we have these conversations? Because I can think of a lot of ways to appropriately have the conversations, and I can think of a lot of ways to inappropriately have the conversations.
Yeah, obviously you guys know that the main battlefront has been happening in Texas and in Florida, but there's about like 18 other states that have been introducing similar bills, most recently Oklahoma, about when to talk to kids, not only about sexuality, but also about this idea about being transgender. And I think what's really interesting, when you said talking to people about this, you know, there's the ancient Jesuit motto, I think they attribute it to Voltaire, about give me a child for his first 7 years and I'll show you the man. For lack of better words, my philosophers and people out there, there's this understanding you have a formative portion of your life to where what you are told and what happens to you greatly affects you. There are people in this room, statistically, who were probably molested before they were 7 years old, and there's been proven to be all sorts of issues that can come from sexual trauma, abuse, and even not just sexual, but physical abuse at a very young age. And you don't really talk about it. You don't know what's going on. You're kind of confused. Why? Because it's hard to make sense of things.
But it's not a physical defect in their brain. It's not a mental illness. It's a spiritual trauma from their youth. You can overcome that by forgiving your mother, forgiving your father. They did the best they could. If they could have done better, they would have done better, but they couldn't. They did the best they could. You forgive them for that, and you overcome that. But nobody tells people that. So they think anger's good, and let me hold on to that resentment for my entire life.
And many people even talk about, they don't even realize they were sexually abused until they become much older, and you look back, you go, oh my gosh, I blacked out what happened in the back of my head. Even physical abuse, and teenagers experience this even in relationships, forgetting how toxic things actually are. We see that in abuse. Shout out to Johnny Depp. But as you move forward in this argument, I find with the transgender idea to be it's so grave with children, because I consider it to be absolutely a grave mental disorder that looks like it's contagious. And we can make fun words like trans-trender, which I do think is quite amazing, hashtag. But when you go with it, I mean, the fact that kids are identifying as this, and in some states there have been access even in Plano too, which is, they say this didn't happen, but I've seen the clinic and I've looked into this, and I've seen enough evidence to show that they were performing mastectomies even on 13-year-olds, that we have moved the argument from adults, which is why I don't want to stay there, from adults into children. Do I think that adults should be allowed to get transgender surgery? In a just and real world, I believe it's mutilation, and I don't think that
doctors shouldn't be allowed to do it.
Just provide to people. I don't think you should cut off people's toes. I think it goes against the Hippocratic Oath. I would say if you have the evidence that it's saving lives and long term we see something like that is happening, we can have another discussion. But in the meantime, with children, what worries me so much is that, to your first point, when we actually believe that parents aren't talking to kids, when teachers and schools believe that doctors are not faithfully talking to their children, that the state has come in and thought it's their right. And maybe it's not the school itself, but there are crazy teachers. And you can find videos all over TikTok specifically. They're so prolific.
Is a tick a flea? It's like a fat, blood-sucking flea that latches onto your flesh and digs its head into you. And, but yeah, kind of like a flea, I guess. Way worse than a flea. A tick is an arachnid? Is a tick an arachnid? I think they only have 6 legs. No, they have 2 body parts, so they're not an insect. You're probably right. But I don't think all arachnids have to have 8 legs, but 2 body parts. They have head and thorax. They don't have an abdomen. Is a tick an arachnid? They're not insects. Yep, they have 8 legs and 2 body parts. That's an arachnid. Huh. I guess if I thought about that, I would have known that, but I never thought about it. Ticks are arachnids, not insects. More closely related to spiders and scorpions and mites than they are to bugs like flies or ants. 8 legs, 2 body parts, head and thorax. Oh, wait. No, head and abdomen. And they do not have antennae. I forgot about that identifier. Let me see a flea. I type in flea and it brings up this musician. Fleas have 6 legs, no antennae. But it looks like they only have two body. Well, they have 2 body parts. I don't think a flea is an insect, though. But it says insect. A flea is an insect. But they only have 1 body part. Siphonoptera. Small wingless blood-sucking parasites. Wingless, dark brown. Huh. They don't really fit into the category of insect, though, but they are categorized as insects. Typically, insects would have 3 body parts, antenna, and 6 legs. They have 6 legs, but it looks like they only have... I guess they have a really small thorax. Huh. Ew, this is gross. Why am I looking at fleas? A scorpion is not a spider. A scorpion is an arachnid. Arachnid is not spider.
There are accounts dedicated to them of teachers talking to their kids about their gender identity, about their sexuality, and at a very, very young age. And when you look at sexual development in children, most researchers agree
All spiders are arachnids, but not all arachnids are spiders.
that the formative development of puberty is probably around 10 on average, starting with at least height growth. But, you know, it can start as young as 7. And
But a scorpion might identify as an arachnid, be trans species.
there are some people that it can start astronomically later, like 14, 15, 16. And so the bills that we currently have in place right now, specifically like in Texas or in Florida, are really targeting those years right before sexual development begins, saying it is not the time when a kid doesn't even get horny or is not trying to have sex or is not trying to develop sexually that we force that upon them. And I think that's where people misconstrue the bills themselves. I believe most of them are right now up to like K through 3rd grade approximately, or approximately 9 years old. The actual scientific agreement of right before there is a standard line that we can agree that people might be ready for these conversations. But I also believe these conversations with students without parents' intervention, without letting them know, does violate their rights as parents. And it also makes me nervous too of why are we even having conversations about talking to kids about these things? I did read a study that was talking about, well, kids masturbate at 6 months old. I was like, damn,
What?
people are weird. But that is
Damn,
not
people are
masturbation,
weird.
right? Kids stimulate themselves. They'll touch their private areas. That's due to a variety of reasons. That can just be due to sensation. That could be due to rebellion if you're told don't touch your no-no parts, etc. But we do have already the research of showing when there is a good time that kids might be ready, but we still can't get a
That's
universal age.
crazy.
And so a lot of that does have to be left up to the parents. And I don't
I didn't do that till 7th grade.
know why companies like Disney step in and have thought that it's their job, as they said that they want over half of their content to include, you know, LGBTQ characters. They're not just saying people who happen to be gay, as with Lightyear, the new movie. They wanted, you know, specifically a kissing scene originally, and they talked about how Bob Iger, the original CEO, kept cutting things out. Like there's a push to push more of the contact, the sexual intimacy, the sexual side of this, not just their existence, but the side that I don't think kids should be learning. And again, maybe we agree on this, but I don't know what the hell we're even doing having a discussion nationally. I don't know why we haven't figured this out yet.
Yeah, so I'm going to borrow a good argument I heard in a class from about 30 minutes ago from you, actually. Something that I think we agree that a lot of these bills show down is there's been like a big breakdown in how parents communicate with their children about what goes on in school. The idea that like the state is passing legislation to dictate curriculum, it doesn't seem to be like, I understand that the education system kind of derives its power from the state, but I feel like these are conversations that should happen with school boards. Like everybody that that has a kid knows that these emails go out, that you have school board meetings, everybody's welcome to show up, and then in these school board meetings, you can have conversations with the teachers about what you feel like is appropriate or not appropriate conversations for your kids. I feel like that's the appropriate area to have those conversations. Feels kind of strange that you would create legislation at the state level to try to dictate what the curriculum should be. I feel like that's not in the purview of that legislative body shouldn't be involved in that. And then what's more, when we go a little bit to the side of that, the idea that this opens up like so many schools to potentially, tons of lawsuits over parents feeling like, I don't like that you mentioned that this author was gay, or I don't like that you taught this play or whatever, and now I'm going to sue the school. I think kind of creates a weird effect where teachers don't know what they can even teach without potentially, bringing legal burden onto the school. I think it's kind of a scary precedent. When we talk about like formative years of children, I'm not aware of any I know that if you get sexually harassed at an early age, Actually, that's not even true. The idea that the majority of people that abuse children were abused at an early age, even that isn't true. I don't think you can turn people gay or turn people trans just because they have something that happens early on in life.
That's not the point I was making. I meant but trauma. I didn't mean they turned gay or trans. I meant we know that there's formative years of development where if inappropriate sexual contact or something can happen between adults, it can cause a slew of problems, including just relational problems.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be sexual.
But are we saying
also,
instruction in a classroom rises to that level of inducing trauma in children?
Well, I think that you can put a correlation between the fact of when...
If you go to school in second grade and your teacher is obviously a man, looks like your dad, but says, "Hey class, call me Miss Annie," and it's got big old titties. Remember the wood shop teacher with the giant titties? The big old knockers that were fake? Yeah, if your kid walks in and sees giant fake breasts, clown-esque woman with clown-esque makeup and a beard, and that's a kid knows, the kid's like, "You look like a mix between my daddy and my mommy. What are you?" Yeah, that's traumatizing to a small child.
Depends to what level you're talking about and at what age. Because I think when you talk about, if you're telling a kid that gay people exist, specifically an author of a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
If some kid asks, "Hey, why is the people kissing in the book," or whatever, that's a whole different discussion of why that book's in the classroom, if parents agree with that. But the idea of having specific legislation of teaching kids, and I've seen some curriculum that's existed in certain schools that even uses math to try to explain complex sexual and gender ideas. I'm saying that I believe that kids are going through a stage of development where it's very important to keep the dimorphic view of men and women, the dimorphic view of humanity, that there are men and women that even if kind of keeping procreation out of this, that there is a specific way that boys are and that girls are and that you can develop, creating alternate options and roads and starting to confuse people at a young age, to me, is not the same thing as, like I mentioned, physical abuse. I would even put verbal abuse out there too, or any form, but I find this as a form of sexual verbal abuse by introducing ideas that someone is not only not ready to comprehend, but if you do it without their parents' knowledge, which some teachers have been caught, including one, I believe, got released from the school today, or maybe it was yesterday, New York Post reported for teaching kids about what it means to be pansexual and how she's pansexual, even though she's married to a man, and she ended up getting let go on leave in March.
What is pansexual? You have sex with kitchen utensils?
And then got released in Florida today. I might be wrong on the date, but you can look. I just saw the story yesterday or today. It does strike me as interesting, though, that if we see other forms of confusion or things that happen outside of the parents' knowledge that can cause problems, again, because parents need to explain things to kids, there needs to be that cooperative nature of raising the child, of helping them make sense of the world, helping them discover where pain or issues might be, that somehow teachers and schools have thought that it is their right to come in. And that's where I question maybe states did come in, not only for the aforementioned reason I told you, where some of the very rich white people don't want to be effed around with, and so they start at the state and teach people the lessons that they don't like the unions. But it's also realizing that, if we open the door to start talking to kids about this kind of stuff, it does seem a little bit like grooming or opening kids up to try to teach them a certain way around the world that parents probably disagree with, and I would say is not good to teach a kid under 9 years old.
I mean, so I wholly reject the concept of that this has anything to do with grooming. I think that it's okay to be teaching children that a world exists and these are the types of people that exist in that world, but
It's grooming whether you like it or not with a small child. Like he just said, kids are like sponges, and I always say all kids get indoctrinated. I always say this is like my slogan. All kids are indoctrinated. All kids inevitably will be indoctrinated. There's nothing wrong with indoctrination. There's only something wrong with some doctrines. Kids, unavoidable, you can't stop it. All kids will be indoctrinated into something, whether it's from their parents or their friends or their teacher or the movies they watch or the books they read. All kids will be indoctrinated into some sort of worldview, and that's unavoidable. What you want to do is make sure that they're indoctrinated into a sound doctrine. So, shit, what was I saying? Oh, it's not grooming. It is grooming. It may be unintentional, but if grooming means indoctrinating, you grooming a kid. Now, unless grooming explicitly means something sexual, but I don't think it does. I think grooming just means like indoctrinating or training, raising up in a certain way. Grooming definition. It's going to tell me not animal. Hygiene, not hygiene. They're not going to give me the definition I want. They're telling me about hygiene and animals. How would I look it up? Verb? No. Oxford? No. Merriam-Webster, self-care, workplace. It's not going to give me the definition I want. Maybe Urban Dictionary? Not a great source, but when a sexual or other kind of predator sets the stage for abusing another, I don't think, does grooming have to be specifically about sex? Because if that's the case, then ignore everything I just said. Yeah, I guess, okay, ignore everything I just said, because apparently it does have sexual and negative connotations. Okay, so never mind. All indoctrination is not grooming. Ignore everything I just said. What I was thinking of is indoctrination, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be bad. So I'll stick with what I was saying about indoctrination, but ignore everything I said about grooming. I did not know that grooming had a specifically sexual negative connotation. I thought you could I don't know, I could groom you to be a good athlete. But no, you can't. Whoops. Social grooming, maybe?
It's going to come down a lot to the types of conversations that are being had. It's the double standards are strange sometimes, and I understand why. But for instance, if we were to talk about certain sexual behaviors between a teacher and their gay partner, that would be very not okay. But if we were to say a teacher is saying oh yeah, me and my husband are trying to have a kid, which is implying a lot of certain types of sexual acts.
A man. When I was a kid, we had human growth and development class in the Christian school. And that's where we would learn about, it wasn't sex ed. We would learn about hygiene. We would learn about diet. We would learn about physical fitness, all this in human growth and development class. And we would also learn about the ovary and the vulva and the urethra and the penis. Boys have a penis. Girls have a vagina. So if I'm in human growth and development class and we're learning about how sperm comes from the penis, from the testes, and goes into the vagina and fertilizes the ova, and then that grows into a baby, and then I see my man teacher at the carpool, he kisses his boyfriend, and then he comes in class and says, me and my husband are trying to make a baby. What am I going to say? I'm going to say, wait, I thought you said babies are made when the penis goes in the vagina. First question, how do you have a husband? Second question, how are you going to make a baby with two penises? That don't make no sense. Now you have to explain this all to a child? No. No, what are you talking about?
Like that kind of conversation is okay. It's a very confusing, territory to figure out like what kind of conversations are okay, what aren't.
That's
Which is why I
deference.
like the idea of school boards and parents and teachers coming together and having these conversations, and not some very huge monolithic, legislation that's passed on the state level that's trying to figure it out for every single school, and then create like a private cause of action for any parent that feels like they've been slighted to sue the school instead of going to the school board and having these conversations. I also think to some extent it's so weird because I feel like when I grew up in the 90s and then in the early 2000s, it felt like we were trying to radically expand kind of what each gender could do, which I thought was really cool. You had women that could be tomboys. You had men that could
Sure.
wear earrings or go in design fashion or whatever. Like it seemed like
Gay.
we could do more and more and more things. And one of the criticisms that I have of sometimes very far left-leaning people is that it feels like they want to make a new category for every single thing, right? You have like a different
That's your
type of,
team.
like trans femme, non-binary male lesbian identity for this person. You've got like some type of thing for this person. It's like, well, why can't we just have like expanded categories for everybody?
Yeah, it's because it's cultural Marxism. You have to other everybody, or else how are they going to be oppressed? Everybody has to fit into a box of oppression.
And then it feels like conservatives are also kind of making a similar argument on the other side too, where it's like, well, no, we need to have this strict dichotomy that men can be men and women are women, and this.
We didn't learn all that stuff till 5th grade. 5th grade, I don't even think, maybe we didn't learn all that stuff, but we did. I remember our human growth and development book in 5th grade. There was like the outline of a male body and a female body, and then it had the sexual reproductive system. But they didn't tell us the penis goes. They didn't tell us all that. They just, they told us basically how babies were made. But it was very like sterile. There was no. Then when I went to public school and we had sex ed, they're playing a video of like pictures of genitalia with herpes. I was like, what is this?
How they act. And I don't think that that's necessarily true either. Like this idea that like, no offense, man, like if you grew up as a girl, you're like, your toys sucked. They just sucked. They were horrible. You had like
Girls'
boring
toys do
Barbies in
suck.
these houses, and kids had like these cool, like you had like all these different types of building blocks. Like,
But that's to teach the girls about family building. You have Barbie and you have Ken. And then you have a little house that they live in together. And then you have the minivan. And then Barbie and Ken do this horizontally. And then you get the little baby Barbie and the car seat and the stroller. And the girl's like, and she has her baby doll and she milks her baby doll and she burps her baby doll. It's about teaching girls the natural inclination that they already have and developing those and building on those. Whereas a boy, you get him some Legos and a basketball or a football. Can we not? Is that crazy? We can't have that?
these little engineering kits. Like it felt like when you watch how people interact in society based on what they're told they're allowed to do, and then you can follow the genders and what they do in society just based on how that instruction in school works. So like one example of this is if we look at women and men's participation across like legal fields, medical fields, there was one other one, and then computer science fields, we can see that, originally people might think that, oh, well, women suck at law, or women suck at medicine, they can't do this. But as the decades went on, women started to reach parity, and in some places exceeded parity, outperforming men
your
in a lot of
parents
these places
had
in
to
school, where it was previously
sign
thought
for you to do
impossible. The one area that this hasn't changed yet and isn't really budging is comp sci and software engineering, anything having to do with computers. And some people point to the reason for this being is because, well, if you're a young boy, you're told that you can play with video games, and if you're a girl, you're told that that's not part of being a girl, you can't play with video games. So when you get these people that go to college, women want to go into comp sci, and they're sitting across.
No, they just suck at video games. Most girls don't like video games. That's a kind of a new thing because of Twitch. Speaking of girls who play video games and Twitch, I listened to another thing. Well, I had heard this before. this streamer girl. Never mind. I don't even want to tell this story. It was a true crime thing. Basically, this girl was a streamer, and her child died of neglect, malnutrition, starved to death in its crib. And it's one of the most horrible things you'll ever hear. The dad said they would put cans of peas and crushed up saltines and dry milk and water into a bottle and shake it up and give it to the kid. And the girl was just streaming all day and didn't take care of the kid, and the kid died. It's a horrible story. But anyway, so yeah, girls play video games now, I guess, even though they still suck at them. You know, not a single one of the top League of Legends players or Fortnite players, the top 100 Fortnite players, not a single one is a woman. Seems like even if we move into drone warfare, where you wear a VR helmet and you fly drones around to do warfare, even then, women still aren't going to be able to defend the country. You're still going to need men to do it. Turns out we're better at video games. So even if warfare is video games, you're still going to want men.
Across from men that have been playing with computers their entire lives. They're hopelessly behind, and they're never going to catch up. And a lot of them will just drop out like year one because they feel like they're totally excluded from the area. So circling back to this idea that, like, I don't think we need to have in school this like rigid set of like, you know, we have to teach the dichotomy between men and women and what boys and girls do. Like, I think you can have a general education area where you talk to kids about a bunch of stuff. The goal isn't to indoctrinate them, but to like expose them to things. And then it's your job as a parent to talk to those children about, you know, what they're talking to their teachers about. You know, without revealing too much, like, I'm the parent of an 11-year-old. I'm sure there are a lot of parents. Well, actually, no, there aren't any parents in here. I guess most of you guys are college kids. But like, you talk to parents,
they don't
like,
know it yet. But.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, a lot of you guys were kids. Like, the worst things that you were indoctrinated with in school weren't from teachers. It was from that one crazy friend that bought either the magazine, or for you guys, I guess they're bringing cell phones with like crazy links to horrible sites or whatever. Like, when your kid comes home and he's talking, you know, some crazy shit, it's not because a teacher said it. It's probably because he learned it from his group of friends. And there you have actually like no accountability, because you have no idea what they're talking about, unless hopefully, you know, either you're communicating with your kid, or, you know, something gets leaked, I guess, to the principal. But to summarize, like, I think that there is an important conversation that needs to happen between parents and children. I think that is essential. But I don't think we need to like ultra restrict schools. They can only teach these certain things. And
That's not enough. Are you crazy?
if a 3-year-old hears that like somebody is gay, it's going to like ruin them for life. I don't agree that that's grooming. I don't think it's going to damage them. I think you can talk to your kid about what's going on, and I think everything will be okay.
Do you mind if I respond to something real fast? Yeah. So I think we are kind of talking about the same thing, and also something.
I never even agreed to this. Also, by the way, this pay and I play this annoying song. I never even agreed to this. Okay, this is not a thing. But $2 ain't gonna cut it.
Very different. I think where the concerns come, and I'm not going to go into critical race theory, but we mentioned this earlier, that the biggest crime that we've seen with all of these disagreements is that parents woke up during the pandemic that the state has interests, perhaps, that are outside of their own personal interests for their kids, and maybe you have to parent your children. Maybe the state wasn't there for a daycare system. School was meant for education. Even teachers would agree. Many of them feel more like babysitters than they do feel like actual educators. It's a huge reason why there's a fallout, because there's so much rebellion, there's so much mischief that goes on, and there's a lack of respect even for authority. That seems to be a universal national issue. Parents somehow woke up and went, oh crap, I've got to be a parent. My kids are being homeschooled. I didn't even know what they were learning. I didn't realize it's the kind of math that they were learning. I didn't realize that they were talking about these kinds of things, because for some reason I thought the school system hadn't changed in 40 years, but it did. And parents woke up and they're concerned because the world they grew up in is not the world that's currently under.
I know, and then COVID happens and none of the parents know how to do Common Core math.
Place. And what I've seen to be the biggest concern, though, about this before we move on is that it's the way that conversations are expressed universally, specifically federally, and even at the state level, which is
I like his jacket.
Why they might be changing at the state level.
Pause.
That make you think that's what your kids are being taught. And even if you say they're anomalies, or you see these rare instances of teachers being caught talking about certain things or referencing them. The reason why I know some parents get nervous is because, yeah, I don't think you tell a kid about being gay, the gays exist. Oh, then you're going to become a homosexual. But, you know, I was reading a study about transgenderism in the youth. This was a while ago, back in like 2017. And in the same study, it was talking about the proliferation actually of homosexuality and of incest in youth. And it was talking about specifically that when kids are experimenting sexually before they have the foreknowledge of what sex actually is, they oftentimes interact with each other based on who they play with. And so it's not that they're incestual and they're sexually attracted to siblings or that they're homosexuals. In fact, it was close to 99% of homosexual interactions before puberty, they grow up to be heterosexual. And there isn't this understanding, you know, that you're going to be gay even because you touched another man or a girl touched a girl, etc., or that you're a rapist because you grabbed a girl's boob when you were 4. But when the topics are presented, and this is what makes me nervous, is how they are when I'm an adult and I already see. I mean, Google is the worst search engine ever. It's like a propaganda farm. I mean, you can type one thing and the opposite shows. Even with gender, I'll be like, hey, the problems with this hormone or the problems with this type of therapy, and you get the opposite. Everything's about affirming with transgender specifically. And so when I look at this, I go, well, when a kid is, let's say a kid is 6 and he is doing.
Let me try that. Harms of gender transition. Hey, go. Huh? No. I mean, this is 3 years ago, and I think we have, because if you look at it, the rates of transitions and people identifying as transgender and stuff have actually been on a decline over the past year or two. When this was happening, this was under Biden, shit was going crazy. And then Trump gets in, DeSantis does the Don't Say Gay bill. We start seeing transgender shooters and stuff. So now there's been a bit of a, and also that study, I forget what the study's called, but that study came out and said gender transition is not helping these people. And then we start seeing all the stories about the detransitioners and all the long-term harms to this. And people have been on the internet have been doing a good job of fighting against this, that we're actually we're getting it back in line. We're doing a good job of that. And now when I type into Google harms of gender transition, I do see the first 4 results, the first 3 results. I have National Institute of Health, adverse effects of gender affirming hormone therapy. So that's a good result. Cornell Institute, what does the scholarly research say about the effects? Blah, blah, blah. Well, no, actually, this is not a good one. We found no studies concluding that gender transition causes overall harm. The positive impact of, okay, so we get one study showing the harms. Then the next website is Cornell Institute saying there are no harms. Then the next website is the Human Rights Campaign, the lies and dangers of efforts to change sexual proclivity or something. Minors are especially vulnerable, and conversion therapy can lead to depression, anxiety, drug use, homelessness, and suicide. Okay, so, and that's actually surprising that that's coming from HRC, because HRC's the blue symbol with the yellow equal sign, very pro-gay group. And they're actually saying it's dangerous. But then the 4th website, they're ruining people's lives. Bans on gender affirming care is ruining people's lives. The consequences of losing access to gender affirming care have been catastrophic for thousands of transgender youth and their families. So it's half and half. No, it's not half and half, because then the 5th one is protect gender affirming care. But then the sixth one is, okay, so out of the first 6, we have 3, but I searched harms of gender transition. I got 3 results actually telling me the harms, and then I got 3 results saying there are no harms. It's great. We need it. So it's 50-50. But 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when this happened, Elijah's probably right. It was probably all pro transgender surgery stuff. But we're getting back a little bit of normalcy back. Not really totally, but we're moving towards that. The pendulum is swinging back.
Doing something homosexual, and he's being told, like, yeah, and if you touch other boys, that makes you gay, right? That could be confusing to a kid who otherwise would be straight. Not that he's going to necessarily become gay, but it does create an alternative voice or influence, which I think is what's scary, is not knowing how it's going to be put into place. I think parents are scared. I use that word because I've watched school board meetings many times, and they seem frightened of how it's being portrayed. So it's like a social contract of just...
Yeah, he's an idiot. Fuentes, he's an idiot. He's retarded.
Saying, well, let's not hit on these topics until the school can acknowledge to the parents, this is the age we're talking at this level. Here's the curriculum if you want to look it over. And obviously we can't stop.
I'm going to tell my huge audience. He's always been a bit of a socialist. I'm going to tell my huge audience to vote Democrat because I hate Israel that much. Shut up. You sound like a Democrat.
Your kids from being around bad influences, that's your job. And I hope parents play the role too, and it does make me angry that everyone blames the schools when it's like, well, you have to be a parent too.
Yeah, I mean, I can real quick. I can half agree with you. Like, I don't think that it's a teacher's place to try to create like sexual identities for children, or to suggest that maybe their sexual identity might be something. Say for acknowledging that things exist. Yeah, I would agree that those conversations shouldn't be happening. I will say that like, it's.
We're not going to get through the Q&A, but we got 5 minutes left in the debate, and then I'm going to say goodbye to you guys so I can go to bed.
It's hard for me to imagine, unless you're like totally divorced from everything your child is doing, like, and maybe I'm projecting, or maybe I had a crazy, growing up for school, whatever. Like, sometimes you had crazy teachers, man. You have teachers that say some crazy shit. You have teachers that are doing inappropriate stuff. Like, it happens. Like, and I don't want to say that like that's how life was, but I mean, like, the ideal is that like you talk to your friends about it. Maybe you go home and you talk to your parents about it, and then you have these conversations with your children, and you're involved in it. And I guess one of the worries that I have on the other end is you get these parents that are like, we want to shut down all of these conversations, and the goal isn't that they really want to shut down that conversation so they could have it with their kid. The goal is that they want to shut down that conversation so that the kid never has that conversation. The goal isn't I want to expose them to these ideas in an appropriate setting. It's I don't want them ever exposed to these ideas. When I still hear stories about girls that have periods in school that have never been told by their moms that like, hey, this is something to be expected, it makes me a little bit less sympathetic towards that point of view, but then I guess ultimately depends on the parents at the end of the day for how they want to address, their...
No, I should never have to talk to my kid about gender transitioning. But the only reason you have to is because you'd be walking through the grocery store one day and you'll see a big dude dressed as a woman. And your kid's like, what's wrong with that guy, Daddy? Now I got to tell my kid about gender dysphoria. Nah, I'm just going to be like, that guy's a weirdo. He's a weirdo. It's ma'am. No, it's not. You're just crazy. That's what I would tell my son.
Child's education.
All right, we're going to move on to Q&A next, but first we're going to have closing statements. So, Destiny, you can start.
What am I closing on? I think that, like, when we talk about trans people, the thing that frustrates me the most is that, like, to go back to the fundamental idea is there's a group of people that are harmed in this country when we take, like, the most ridiculous positions, we wrap them all together, and then we get rid of all of them. Much the same way that people try to do it with gay people, saying that, like, well, gay people are just a bunch of child molesters, they're just a bunch of old guys who want to go after boys. When we try to classify everybody as this particular thing, I think we lose a lot of the actual people that need help and need care and need the kind of support that they deserve to have in society, in a liberal society where we try to help as many people as we can. I do agree that there are problems. I wish that when problems existed, we had like an analytic approach to it. We said,
Well, the problem is gay people weren't getting married and adopting kids and renting out surrogate wombs and buying designer babies and having gay parades where they're dressed up in puppy play and peeing in kiddie pools and making out with each other in the street. The only reason like in the old days, when I was young, we knew there were gay guys. Nobody called the gay guys all PDF files. But nowadays, it does seem like they're going after the kids.
Here's something, maybe these gender affirming care clinics are a little bit too zealous, overzealous. I would probably agree with that, but that doesn't mean we just get rid of all of them. It means, we tweak it, we fix it, and we move forward. And yeah, I think my general guiding thing on most of these conversations related to trans people is I acknowledge there are problems, I acknowledge there are weird things. We should keep trying to tweak it, and we should acknowledge that at the end of the day, there is some group of people that hopefully as a society, we can accommodate in ways that they can live happier and healthier lives.
We also used to be able to say fag, and that was a good deterrence from being gay because that was like the insult that everybody used.
And I also thank you for that. I think that we live in a society that has become too focused on minorities and has abandoned the majority. In fact, I think we've moved into a process of demonizing the majority, specifically straight people, white people, that there's this sort of collective guilt that they need to atone for while we work on helping these minorities who have been pushed down either by race or sexual orientation or religion. It's the same way you see even on social media when people put Christian posts, there's some sort of fight on Twitter, you put an Islamic post. I think back in 2001 it would have been different, but today there seems to be a little bit of respect or an understanding of what's going on. We choose sanctimoniously of what issues we care about, and I think as transgenderism, gender dysphoria, gender identity disorder before the last year, or 10 years I should say, was still a thing, and it was even in 2013, right, in the DSM-5, stated to be a real identity or something that was a disorder. But now it's become sort of a hallmark or a new avenue that I think young people think is an alternative. Whether or not that's being directly taught in curriculum, socially this is alarming to me that people think that there is a third alternative to male and female. I believe this creates a node of disruption that just like a current of electricity, it does not require 12 cuts in order to disrupt the flow. It requires one strategic place to disrupt everything. And when you create confusion, I believe this is a cultural attack to not only disrupt the family, but when people are confused sexually, when they are confused by their gender, when people cannot agree, it creates social division. It makes people incapable of developing to become people ready to be parents or family members. I think the 90s was like the last generation that kind of grew up all right. I'll give you guys.
God, Elijah was so good at debating. I wish he would have done more. He only did a couple of these, and he never really did debates on his show on Slightly Offensive or You Are Here. He would kind of get into it with some of his guests and go back and forth, but man, he shined in these formal debates. He's so good. He has no notes, no paper, no pen, and he just kills it. He's very good at these formal on-stage debates. And man, he's just gone now.
As all pass in here. But ultimately speaking, I think transgenderism has become a religious, social focus and a way towards enlightenment or restitution from your sins in the world. Even you see people switching from gay to non-binary to trans, etc. If it really is a medical issue, if it really is a disorder, then it should be treated as such. The conversation of anyone who is trying to make it an emotional conversation, trying to make it a political conversation, or trying to make it any type of just movement beyond the medical definition and how we treat people like patients and what's the best path forward for them should be excluded from it entirely. And I think if we look at it simply medically and we treat those patients as people who are ill, who have something wrong, and rather than affirming it, we try to find an alternative mode to fix it and not rush the gun on the moment, then I think we'll have a brighter and a better future, and they may actually live longer, and we may fix some of the issues with suicide and self-harm. And lastly, I do want to say that I believe that the move of transgenderism into children with the introduction of hormones and of
child abuse,
puberty blockers, and even of surgery in some places, I believe is child abuse. I believe it is mutilation, and we do a disservice by using incorrect words like
and it's
affirmation
satanic
and confirmation, which already show bias.
Demonic.
Thank you, guys. Let's all give a round of applause for both our debaters here.
All right. Let's see if any trans people.
Very strong, powerful individual. Learn how to control it. This topic is really about, separating it from genetic abnormalities, talking about basically cutting off genitals of individuals. This is like a very evil thing.
Yeah.
It seems like it's time to whip out the sword and not to cut off genitals, but to maybe be a little bit more aggressive fighting the left. How do you have polite conversations when you think this is such an evil thing? And what do you think is going to
Time
be done
and a
about it?
place.
It seems like this is being raised by women, like women in school board meetings.
Certain times you have to talk in a certain way. Other times you talk in a different way. And at this, it comes off better. It looks better if Elijah stays calm and stays civil and actually makes good arguments. But then there's another time where, you rage. Maybe not rage, but where you go hard in the paint, Trying to see if any Transformers ask a question.
I identify as a lesbian woman, and I've lived in Tennessee my entire life. And
Lesbian!
Growing up as a lesbian in Tennessee is not exactly.
I identify as a lesbian, meaning you're not actually a lesbian. You just identify that way. Lesbian. Until you get drunk and you need some Pepe in your life. I've seen it.
Very ideal. And I know that a lot of my friends who are trans have had a similar experience where it's a lot of pressure from school and especially from your parents when they don't accept you because, the majority of the people in the state wouldn't. Yeah,
I'm a lesbian, and me and my girlfriend used a giant strap-on on each other. Lesbian.
that can have a huge impact on suicidality. And I just kind of wanted to ask, do you think that, your surroundings and your environment has more of an impact on trans suicidality than, an inherent
It's true.
suicidality of trans people?
Yeah, we were asked to keep the answers short.
I got raped by a lesbian. True story. Passed out drunk. A lesbian took advantage of me. It's a true story.
So I don't want to be disrespectful, but America has a overall higher incidence of suicide compared to many other countries. Specifically, that seems to be a first world problem even, there's a high suicide rate in a lot of developed countries. In America, it's even higher than our neighbors. Look at drug overdoses, self-harm, etc. This can even be considered cultural. I don't understand all the parameters surrounding that, but yes, I do believe obviously anybody.
Oh, this guy should be good.
And a lot of people consider this
he might be
grooming,
based.
Especially talking to it in kindergarten or elementary school. So my question is, at what age do you think it's appropriate to talk about these issues, these LGBTQ issues and trans issues?
They talked about that already.
Okay.
Teachers
so
or parents?
I always get frustrated when people.
They already answered that question in the debate.
Teachers generally are kind of first reporters when it comes to issues of child abuse or something like that. If they notice a kid might have, some signs that they might, be suffering from dysphoria or something like that, how would be the best way for them to maybe go about that? Should they be referring to therapists? You get sort of these people that get wrapped up into a sort of maybe thinking that they're doing the right thing, but then sort of overstep and then.
I'm trying to see if any. He's a libertarian. He was the guy at the beginning, right?
Thanks. This is a question for Elijah. So if we can imagine a hypothetical world where puberty blockers are completely reversible, so there are no negative effects for somebody who takes puberty blockers and decides to go on with the puberty of the
This is a libertarian question. If we could stop the harm, would you be okay with it?
they were assigned at birth. Would you think that would be a moral thing to give to prepubescent children to allow them to make a decision later in life?
So you're saying giving, reversing the blockers after they were given blockers? So
Yeah, so if puberty blockers, if they could be completely reversible, if you could go on puberty blockers and then have the puberty that you were supposed to.
If methadone was guaranteed to work to cure heroin addiction, is it okay to give kids heroin? No.
Sort of supposed to have, based on your biology, after you're a certain age.
Like a LARP that you were doing, or what was the big, like, I don't really, like, you guys didn't really do anything. I was just confused by it when it happened, that's all.
What
Oh,
happened?
do you know anything about it?
I mean,
What's he talking about?
You to be accepted or to be acknowledged, and the newer generation, where it's clearly just mental, aren't doing the part to try to be accepted, and that's why they're treated the way they are.
thank you. Hey, Elijah, was like the whole Capitol riot thing, was that like a LARP that you were doing, or what was the big, like, I don't really, like, you guys didn't really do anything. I was just confused by it when it happened, that's all.
Oh, do you know anything about it?
I mean, yeah, like, I watched a lot of videos on it, and, like, I saw all the pictures of, like, the dude. Like, it just seemed like you were doing, like, a meetup thing at, like, the Capitol. It's
Who's
just
me? You think I put out a tweet and was like, yo, let's go in the Capitol?
dude, let's go right. I mean, like, a little bit. I don't know,
I'm at
man.
the west. I'm at the. I'm at the west door. Let's get in there. No. I was there on assignment from my network, and I really thought people were going to the Ellipse, simply put, to watch a speech. That was the first day that I didn't bring a gas mask, and I always bring a gas mask. Even the Stop the Steal rallies, there was huge interactions between far left and the right wingers that were there. I didn't think anyone was going to be stupid enough to do really the levels of what they did. I think some of the people involved were et cetera, that didn't get.
Nobody messed around at the Stop the Steal rally here in Salt Lake City, because there was about 30 Proud Boys with large rifles in their hands. Nothing happened. Everything was peaceful.
Prosecuted. I actually did film the first violence that happened that day, and I got some, I got new friends in the FBI, the Homeland Security. We have long-term relationships now, even the Attorney General. But I think, there was a First Amendment issue, and I wasn't there to do anything.
This is before. What's weird is at this time, this is right after January 6th. And Destiny doesn't seem to really be triggered by this, but over time it like grew and infested his brain to where now every single debate, what about January 6th? January 6th, January 6th. He like spurgs out about it and loses his mind. But right here, he doesn't even really seem to care that much.
Sides record and to capture what was happening, and those videos got viewed hundreds of millions of times within just 24 hours and have been used in both impeachment trials, well, not technically the second impeachment, and even some of my critics like AOC, etc.
Pushing homosexual relationships and pushing heterosexual relationships.
So I have to do this really quickly. One, religiously speaking, well, it's because I don't believe that living a homosexual lifestyle is the best path forward, not only for society or
abuse, and not the parents who are not supportive of their children.
I love
push back.
I love my hot girlfriend. You do not have a hot girlfriend, dude.
them transitioning.
You can't see it because my face is in the way, but his shirt says, I love my hot girlfriend. I heart my hot girlfriend. Okay, I guess no Transformers ask any questions. Anyway, that's it for that debate. Get that out of here. All right, guys, I got to go eat my chicken and go to bed. Fun share stream. Thanks for all the super chats. Do I owe one more? I don't. Maybe I do. I'll do one more just in case. While I find a raid.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
I don't. It's not true.
Jizz goggles balls.
No, I don't.
Jizz goggles balls.
I do not do that.
Jizz goggles balls.
I disavow.
Jizz goggles balls.
Lies. Witchcraft. Sorcery.
Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls. Jizz goggles balls.
I don't. Never happened. Not once. You guys want to go to a lefty stream? You want to go to Aiden? Nah, I'll send you to Anchor Baby. Go say hi to Anchor Baby. The American Anchor Baby. Thank you guys for hanging out. God bless everybody. Have a good day. I got to get some sleep. Friday, tomorrow morning, I'll probably stream in the morning a little while, doing more Ukraine debate prep stuff. I got to start writing so it'll be a boring stream tomorrow morning. It's going to be a lot of me just typing and sitting here reading the chats and writing stuff. Won't be the most entertaining stream, but if I'm going to be sitting here typing for 2 hours, I might as well turn the stream on and hang out with you guys. So, Speak is streaming right now? Why didn't I see him just now? But that's what we're doing tomorrow morning. I got to write. So, writing and hanging out with the chat. Just warning you, they're usually not the most entertaining streams because I got to write stuff. But then Friday night, yeah, he started the 55-hour thing, right? Yeah, he was starting that today at 11 and it's 12:30 now. I don't see him. Did it start yet? Why is it not on my list? Verbal. He's not showing on here. Search videos. Upcoming 10K celebration 55-hour stream upcoming. No, it's not. It was supposed to start at 1. People are already in chat. I think they're waiting for him to come on right now. He's late. Supposed to start at 1. I don't think that will work. I can try. I don't think it's going to work, but I'll try. 10K celebration scheduled at noon. It was, yeah. But anyway, I'll try to send you there. We'll see if it works. If not, then just go over there. But so tonight, verbal combat, and then if Easy's going for 55 hours, the UFC fights start at 3 a.m. my time. And the main card starts at 5 a.m. my time. Usually verbal combat ends between like 3 and 4. So after VK, I'll be doing fight night. So it'll be VK fight night combined on the Friday night stream. I'll probably do VK and then watch the fights and hang out in Discord here on my channel. And then after the fights are over, either go back to his panel and hang out with him while he's doing he might be playing Rust. I don't know what he's going to be doing after VK. But Saturday night, since there's no fights, might just hang out on his panel for his 10K celebration. And then Tuesday is the debate with Dylan. And then next weekend, I'm going to do my 24-hour 6K stream. I was going to do it this weekend, but he's doing his. So I'm just going to wait till next weekend. But that's the plan of things coming up. So I'll try to raid you over to him. It might work, it might not. Otherwise, just go hang out in his chat. But thank you guys for hanging out. God bless everybody. I will see you tomorrow morning for boring writing stream. God bless everybody. We out. Peace.